All right, folks, good afternoon. I'm going to call this work session to order for April the 11th. And the first item on our agenda is May is Older Americans Month, which explains the room. I would ask Tracy to come up and say a couple of words. We've got some older folks up here too, including me. Go ahead.
I'll leave it right there.
You'll leave it right there? That's safe.
Yes. I do want to say thanks for bringing some of our seniors up here today. And I hate to say that word, seniors. You're really older Americans, or I don't know, aging, unbound folks. That's what the theme is, I think, this year. But the mayor's going to read a proclamation. And we're recognizing you guys for the service to the community, for teaching us how to age well. And hopefully what we're doing is providing opportunities for you so that you can maintain your integrity, your social skills, your emotional skills, and your physical skills. So thanks again for coming today. And at this point, the mayor will read the proclamation.
Thank you. And I do want to say a couple of words, too. I've been encouraged to come out and visit you all at the Senior Center, and I'll get a chance to get over there soon. I appreciate all that you folks have given to our community over the years, and I'm honored to do this today. This proclamation will be signed by all the members of the council and the mayor, and I'll read this now. And when I finish this, I'm going to ask you all to come up. We're going to take a photo right up here up front, and then you'll be free to do whatever, because it's not all that exciting to be at these meetings. I know that. All right, whereas the city of Villa Rica includes a growing number of older Americans who contribute their time, wisdom, and experience to our community, and whereas the city of Villa Rica is stronger when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds are included and encouraged to make their mark, and whereas the city of Villa Rica recognizes the importance of the physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being of its citizens, and whereas the city of Villa Rica recognizes the need to create a community that offers the services older adults may need to make choices about how they age, and whereas the city of Villa Rica can support our aging community members by promoting independence, inclusion, and participation, engaging older adults through recreation, education, and services, connecting people with opportunities to share their time, experience, and talents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that May 2023 be designated as Older Americans Month in the city of Villa Rica. We urge every resident to celebrate our older citizens, help to create an inclusive society, and accept the challenge of flexible thinking around aging. Thank you all. If you will come up, we'll take a photo. No.
Mayor, out of all the times that you will have your gavel, this is probably the group that you'll have to say order, order to. Yes, ma'am. Y'all may have to double up.
Let's all get it over here together. Put this thing together.
Get up together. Stand in front of each other.
All of us.
Hang on.
Where can I stand? Right in here? Yeah. Can they see you? No. Come on in here where they can see you. How about that? Got it? There we go. Say cheese. Thanks, y'all. I'm going to come back and see y'all
We'll give them a minute to exit. They're going to play cards. It's card day today, so pickleball. Oh, and pickleball.
I guess I do.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank y'all. Thank you, Tracy. All right. You know what? I need to I'm going to ask the chief to come up and give us an update on the homeless encampments. I know we've been working on this. We've had it's not gone unnoticed, the efforts that we're making, and I want to make sure that you update the community and the council on what's happening there. So go
I'd
ahead.
like to know why the chief has his vest on. Is it something we don't know?
It's our uniform now, sir.
Okay.
You helped approve us getting the outer vest. The officers like these better. You can just unzip it and take it off instead of, like if you get real hot, you take it off.
I haven't seen one. I appreciate that.
Thank you. This is the way you say it makes me look skinny and younger, sir. No. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Moving on. Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Morning, afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm
Yes,
used to
sir.
doing it at 10. You're right. It's 1 o'clock. My bad. Good afternoon. So we have been working on the homeless situation, the people asking for money everywhere, the peddling, the camping everywhere, including people's yards, including on the city roads. We had one couple that we probably moved 8 or 10 different times that were on private property, then public property, then and it's just been a lot of work for us along with the rest of the city crews. So you guys passed the urban camping ordinance earlier in the year, and we immediately started working on that. So this is what we found. If y'all can see the screen, this is what we found, especially on the interstate ramps. These are the pictures of the before that we have dealt with. Some of these they took some time. This wasn't something that happened overnight. I mean, some of these were, that one had indoor plumbing, as you can see. Some of these took months and months to build. And so with the urban camping ordinance, also using the criminal trespass law, after Tom and we were able to establish through DOT that they did not want them on DOT property, we went out and started serving these people with the urban camping ordinance. We wrote them a warning for that. Then we went and we wrote them, or at the same time we wrote them a criminal trespass for the DOT property. While we were doing that the first time we went, we also served 3 warrants that were active warrants on some of the people that we dealt with. So we immediately made 3 arrests that day. We went to the other locations. We served everybody on the ramps that we found with that paperwork. We told them they had 3 days to get off of the property to move. We went back 4 days later. We made more arrests for the criminal trespass charges and encouraged them to find somewhere else to go. Since then, we made a couple more arrests. One gentleman, I think we've arrested 3 times. So this is the after. This is the once we got permission to clean it up, once we got permission to get it moved, Hal and his crew, along with inmates from Carroll County, our folks. We also had animal control help during this process because we located several dogs during this process. Animal control was able to get those. I know at least 1 or 2 of those were placed. But this is amazing, the job that Hal and his crew did on this, and I genuinely appreciate you guys. Y'all did an amazing job, so thank you. So this looks so much better than what it did. Obviously, it's a job we have to maintain, and we have to keep folks from coming back. But you can tell how much nicer that looks. So the process, all the organizations involved was our department, Public Works, Sheriff's Department, Georgia DOT, Carroll County Animal Control helped us, like I said. The stats, we had 13 criminal trespass warnings or orders where we served people. We wrote 8 written warnings on our ordinance, which was the urban camping ordinance. What we wanted to do, if possible, was put these folks in state court so those charges would be a little bit more serious. That was the criminal trespass, to make sure that they understood we do not want them coming back and coming back and coming back. So they ended up in state court on those charges. We made a total of 9 arrests, approximately 20 tons of waste, 4 grapple truckloads. You saw the grapple truck in one of the pictures, loading stuff. 150 shopping carts, which is unbelievable. We had at least 2 or 3 truckloads of shopping carts that we returned. Most of them were Walmart, some were Family Dollar, Dollar General, Home Depot. A lot of them were damaged, destroyed, so we ended up not returning those. Those were recycled, but it's a huge problem, and they're getting these shopping carts just about every visit, it looked like, and bringing stuff to that location, especially the one, the big location that we showed you. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McPherson.
What's the Alliance, Connors Road, the Homeless Alliance Group? What has been the interaction with them during this process?
And I'm glad you brought that up. I meant to. We gave each person, when we served them with the criminal trespass, when we served them with the warnings, we gave each one paperwork, cards, and everything to work with the Alliance. We spoke to the Alliance and told them that hopefully they're going to get an influx of people. We checked with them later on in the week. They had one person that reached out to them out of the whole group. That's one more than none. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Out of the group, how many people were you dealing with out of this group of,
How many people total?
yeah,
Whew.
approximately, you don't have to be exact.
I'm picturing, because I went out with them, so I know which locations we went to. The one big location had 2 people in it. The one big 2-bedroom condo,
Just 2 people.
it was huge. They had
That's
2.
2 jokes.
The other location on the westbound ramp had 6 or 7 between them total. We had a couple on another ramp and at least one more, so probably 9 or 10 total.
How many locations are there?
We dealt with 4 or 5, right, Tom? All 4 ramps. Yeah, all 4 ramps and then some other places off, but mostly on the ramps. But there was people in different locations on the ramps.
Right.
So they weren't just right there at that ramp. They were down here in the woods, down here in the woods.
Scattered
So,
out.
yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Ms. McCoy.
Were there any minors involved?
There were no kids involved, no
Okay.
ma'am.
That's good. Mr. Montahan.
Chief, so I think some of the concern I've heard about is that since they're no longer on the ramps, they may be deeper off into the woods or something. If a citizen has a concern about, I think I hear something back there that, like pots and pans or something like that. What would you recommend the process be for that citizen? I mean, maybe this person doesn't know for sure, but I guess to investigate it, would you want them to call 911?
I'd rather
or-
them let us do it.
Right.
I would rather them call 911, let us go out and look and see if we can locate them.
Okay.
Obviously, if they're on private property, we've got to get permission from the property owner to have them removed or whatever, but we don't mind helping them.
Okay, because I think what I've heard is that there's concern is that some of these HOA open space areas that are wooded, no one's back there, so we don't know if someone's
Right.
taken up
Right.
back there. So
I
I'll
know
let
at
them
least a couple of them have relocated to Carrollton. I know at least one of them is working with the mental health advocates in Carrollton, one of the females. So, hopefully they are getting help.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are some county services, and just as an example of something that can be concerning as a citizen, because most of mine wasn't my personal interaction, but I have a neighbor, Mirror Lake, I'm neighbor to the Mirror Lake community, and so somebody, called me, gave me a warning that there's a homeless person between your house and the tennis courts, and that they tried to see if he was okay. It'd been when there was cold weather too, so you're a little concerned about people being out and not having shelter. And his answers weren't coherent. But she says, I know you walk through that area, because the only way for me to stay off Punkintown, there's no sidewalk, is to go through the woods. And so his answers back, and y'all dealt with it. I didn't have to call in, they did. Were not coherent. So you're a little worried the person's not in their right mind, and they're 100 yards from me probably in the wooded area back there. And I tend to leave my back door open except at night now, especially. But when the dog now alerts, I know it may not just be deer. It might be a person back there, so it can be scary as a citizen too. To come across somebody, they might be fine, they might be harmless, or they might be somebody out of their mind, with a knife or whatever. So you just got to be careful and alert. But that's just one little example that I had really close to my house, because I didn't have anything close to my house initially. We would see it out where you're talking about, and it was other citizens that it was behind their house. But thank you. I appreciate what y'all are doing, Al back there, and the whole network of groups that work together.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, anybody else? Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay, I want to say a couple of words on that, but I've got a special called meeting form I need to go ahead and get everybody to sign, so I'm going to pass this down. This is for the Cities Week. If I could get you all to sign that while we're here. So just a little clarification on some of the stuff the Chief said. We actually collected about 150 shopping carts, and of those, 20 of them had to be scrapped, but 130 of those were returned to the stores that they came from after we had cleaned them up. And that, I'm making this special note because we institute a shopping cart ordinance at our last council meeting. So I want to show you what we're doing to be proactive now in helping those stores and let them know what we're doing. So when we get these carts, we're cleaning them up and then returning them. So we returned 116 to Walmart, 12 to the Food Depot, 1 to Ingles, and 1 to the Dollar Tree. And just to put in perspective how much debris was picked up, it was over 20 tons of debris that was picked up out there. So appreciate the work Hal did and all the folks, because all these various departments got together to help with this. And that's a big deal to have everybody working on this thing.
Is your mic on? I mean, I'm hearing you here.
Yeah.
Do you all hear me? Okay.
We're hearing.
It just sounds like his voice to me.
Jim?
Maybe it's too far away.
Yeah, pull it closer.
I just wasn't hearing it on the system. I was hearing it this way.
Okay, let's move on to number 3. And David, I had meant to contact you about this. There was an email that had come around. I think that Tom had requested making a change to the overall ordinance, and this was with regard to sort of an inconsistency in the qualifying. And this had to do with major or arterial roads. And if we're going to make that change, I think I'd rather wait about setting these dates. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine, and there's another change that was going to need to be made anyway.
Okay.
In the resolution there, we had a cutoff date of filing by Friday, May 5th. Based on subsequent conversations amongst the staff, that's too short of a cutoff date, and the main reason being that part of our requirements are that you have to get a survey that shows that you're far enough away from churches, schools, other businesses.
Yes, sir.
And under the current state of circumstances with surveyors these days, there'd be no way to get a survey done in the short of period as we've got. So I'm fine with putting this off until we can clarify the street issue, and we're also going to make a longer period to file applications.
Okay, so we won't take this up today. You just put it back on the agenda next month.
I will.
We'll just take it off the work session, because I'd rather do everything at the same time. And I didn't know about this last piece that you just told me, so. Okay, let's move on to A4. This is the first reading home rule ordinance providing for board and commission terms. Are you feel like you're where you need to be on this?
I am, and really there's two components to this. One is that we were making a change to the zoning ordinance, which is coming up later, setting the terms of the Planning and Zoning Commission. All of the other boards, authorities, and commissions are not a part of the zoning ordinance, and this is an attempt to schedule it so that all of the terms for all other boards, authorities, commissions ends on the last date of the year of that particular term. This is what this particular ordinance does that. It is a home rule amendment, so we have to have a first reading, which I'm hoping will be tonight, and then you'll actually act on it at the next meeting after we have published a notice and advertised for it.
Okay. So I'll see if council has any questions. Let me first ask Mr. Carter, because I think he was involved in this a little bit more than everybody else. Mr. Carter, have you reviewed this?
I did, and I reviewed the planning and zoning thing. I saw that they finally got yours in place. So,
Okay,
yeah.
are we where you want it to be?
Yeah.
Or where we expect
It's
it to be?
fine.
And David, is it consistent with the new ordinance that was passed, setting those terms back in maybe November or October?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
okay. All right, council, does anybody else have any questions for David on this item? All right, if not, let me see, so we need to do this, does this have a public hearing, David?
No.
Okay, but it just needs to be a reading,
Yeah, really.
and we would need to do it in a voting meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And you don't have to really read the whole thing. You just have to say this is a first reading on a home rule amendment.
Well, it's not that long, I don't mind reading for an
Okay.
hour.
Suit yourself.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, so this is an item that we will take up tonight. All right, let's go on to A5, Business Associate Agreement, Strongside Solutions LLC. Is this David?
It is.
All right, go ahead.
And this arose out of the audit that we had conducted of our compliance with the HIPAA regulations. And by and large, it said that we were compliant, excuse me, that we were complying, except that we did not have a business associate agreement with our main provider, which was Strongside Solutions and its two affiliated companies, Angel Access and Angel RX. So this is before you so that we can enter into an agreement with them to have complete compliance with the HIPAA requirements.
Okay, council, does anyone have any questions on this item?
Just real quick.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
We had some sort of agreement. I mean, obviously, we didn't have what they're requiring for HIPAA, but we didn't enter in this with them without having something.
No, we had an agreement with them, but it is not what was considered to be a business associate agreement pursuant to the HIPAA regulations. So
Okay.
we do have a contract with them, but this agreement provides, making sure all the information is protected and
Privacy.
confidential. And we do have it with all of our other providers. We just didn't have it with Wendell.
Yeah, okay. All right, anybody else? All right, is there any objection to making this consent number 1? All right, let's do A6, approval of intergovernmental agreement with Douglas County for the local option sales tax. David?
This agreement was sent to us by Douglas County. I mean, the local option sales tax distribution has already been agreed, and it's been sent into the State Department of Revenue. Douglas County wanted to formalize it into a formal agreement, which this is, and it is consistent with what we've already agreed to for the next 10 years with Douglas County.
All right, council, any questions? All right, Ms. McPherson.
We don't really have, is this the same thing like SPLOST where we really don't have any choice? It's the biggest city that makes the decision and we automatically get a certain percentage?
Well, it was, but again, we went through all this and we agreed with them back three or 4 months ago. Yeah, and we do have some say-so in it, but we felt like the agreement was favorable for Villa Rica,
Okay.
and that we're getting more money in the future than we've gotten in the past.
That's right. All right, anybody else? Mr. Carter? Oh,
Yeah, anything would have been more than what we were getting.
Right. I mean, it's a good deal for us.
Yeah.
all right, anybody else? Oh,
One
Mr.
other
Carter.
question. Who decided the number? They put the percentage in?
They put the percentage in this agreement, but those were the percentages that we had already agreed to 3 or 4 months ago, and we had input into what those numbers were. So although they put them into the written agreement, we agreed to it, and we essentially argued that these were the correct numbers.
And they went along with us?
They went along with us.
Okay, thank you.
Who negotiated? Who was who dealt with them? Mainly you, David, or?
Me, I mean, the council voted on it, so
Well-
you participated also. But yes, I was probably
We weren't looking at them face to face at a table, though, or
myself,
whatever.
Tom, Sarah,
Okay.
all participated in
Okay.
that.
All right, anybody else? All right, is any objection to making that consent number 2? All right, A7, approval of intergovernmental agreement with Douglas County for service delivery. David?
This is an agreement that we do have to enact periodically, and this is one of those times when we do have to enact it. Essentially, this agreement just continues in place the service, the service delivery agreement that we have had with Douglas County over the past period. There are no significant changes made in it. We were satisfied with what the last agreement was. We were somewhat concerned that there would be an attempt to make it more harsh for us, but that didn't happen. So we're recommending that we approve this.
All right, anybody, any questions? All right, is there any objection to making it consent number 3? All right, let's move on to A8, consideration of appearance agreement with Matt Stone for a concert. Ms. McPherson.
David, do you want to say anything before I do?
I'll only say that I've reviewed the agreement that you gave to me and that it appears to be a sufficient agreement if the council approves it.
Okay, so we spent about 40 minutes on this last month, so hopefully with the communication we've had since and me being able to meet with David and also get some guidance, this is an opportunity to, and you can see on the cover sheet there, you know, I've already given the purpose, the impact of what I believe are, you know, the good results that could come from this. An additional high-quality concert for our community, get some additional people downtown, hanging out, having a good time, maybe going to the restaurants, you know, seeing what shops and things are down here. But my goal is to do it primarily with private funds. And to do that through fundraising, and I do have a number of people that like to do that sort of thing. They'll donate toward good things to go on in their community and like to see fun activities. So the reason we kind of went this direction with our communication after the last meeting is that could I do this all on my own in a sense, or at least start it all by myself and then come to the city and say, would you partner with me on this? The big holdup was I can't be having people donate money and writing checks to me. See, I'm not an organization. I don't have a nonprofit. I'm not the Lions Club. I'm not any of those organizations that can basically set up something to have private funds come in and put on an event downtown. I did put in an application for the amphitheater to reserve it for the particular date in October, but this is just basically to say, will the city agree to pick up the amount that is not covered by sponsorship, which I hope pretty much just comes down to staff, whoever has to set up, clean up, and security. It's my goal to raise the funds for the band itself, for the artist and the band, for the advertising. I put together my budget for the band, the advertising, feed the band. they haven't requested a lot of things that other bands do request. They've requested, and we have agreed to, no accommodations. We're not paying for hotel rooms. They don't have where you put out $10,000, and if the concert isn't held, you pay them $10,000 too. It's not anything like that in the cover sheet. No, it's not in the cover sheet, but in the agreement itself. As of August, we have $1,700 due as a down payment on the $5,800. So even if something were to go wrong, we don't have the significant investment that you usually see in most of the city events. That's really all I've got to say. Whatever questions anybody else might have or discussion.
Yeah, so does anybody have any questions on the council? Ms. McCoy?
Okay, I was going over the agreement, and I did a little spreadsheet here. First off, the money coming in, how much do you expect to raise from it? Is there a budgeted amount, like an estimated amount of how much of that you want to bring in?
Yeah, overall it'll be, I think it's between 12 and 13,000. Let me go back to the cover sheet. Once I put together what advertising would be, in addition to the band itself, light and sound. Light and sound is not inexpensive in a lot of cases. So light,
you mean light
sound,
and sound is cheap, or you mean light and sound is expensive? You said light and sound is not inexpensive. So,
yeah, it's not inexpensive,
so it
which
is
means
expensive.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I
Okay.
guess they figure, it costs them a certain amount to put things on. I am finding out that there are, if you shop enough, though, you can get quality stuff for less. But anyway, so that's what you see on the number there is the artist and the band. So in addition, and then just below on the cover sheet, you'll see the projected amount for band, light, sound, advertising, accommodations for band is not, there won't be accommodations in that sense. I will take care of whatever food is in the green room with catering, which these guys are simple. I mean, these are not prima donnas. They're like, give us water and a tray of submarine sandwiches and we're good to go. So I really appreciated that. So that amount, we approximated about 13,000.
Okay, because I figured the amphitheater, if you were doing this without our, and this is very bare bones budget, if it wasn't being done with our help, so to speak, the amphitheater stage, it says on the website it's $300 per 4 hours. Say, to be safe, 8 hours, that's $600. Water and basic hospitality, which I guess is the submarine sandwiches, I put at $100. I put security for 4 officers times, and this might be super cheap, times $48 times 4 hours at $768. I rounded that up to $800. I figured the sound system would be $10,000. The sound tech would be $2,000. I wasn't sure about the band, where the band would be extra, or if that was included in the $5,800. That was what I wasn't sure. So if we paid extra for the band, I'm looking at a budget of really about $21,000.
It's way off on the lights and sounds, light and sound, but the Main Street department, and I guess, David, there was a reason why we didn't get all into the budget part, because I did come up with every number I could on my end, as exact as I could do it when you haven't printed your materials yet and you haven't paid for the advertising. But Main Street has had background in doing this prior. They've had a Friday night concert. They know what they paid for staff and they know what they paid for security.
Okay. That's fine, but how is it, my concern with this is how, without us knowing or having pledges or that being in the packet, how do we know that what we're going to have to foot from the city, and this is an unbudgeted item?
I think that's where, I mean, if we were to go to the grant money, any organization that comes in, even like the Lions Club does, they don't provide all those other things. They put on the event, but they don't, the grant is what covers the amphitheater, the I don't know what they do for security for that type of event and everything. But I think what you have to realize is that the city this is a benefit to the community and the city and the businesses downtown.
Correct. Have you looked at our census data? The average age of the Villa Rica is 35.7.
Yeah, it's right around 35. Yeah.
Yes. This is, now I know the movie came out and everything, but and I know Elvis is iconic, but I don't see this as being conducive to that the entire community would want to go, as if it were something like the Eagles or something a little newer, or Fleetwood Mac or something like that. I could see it more of the community coming in. But
yeah.
I mean, my mom is 74 and she is I think she's 74. She's a Beatles fan. She was a Beatles fan from the way back and stuff like that. So I just don't, like, I did the census and I pulled a spreadsheet, and the population of the people in Villa Rica age 65 and over is 24.7. The percentage of people ages 45 to 85 is 38.8.
I don't really want to debate what genre, what it pulls in, because we have things that are meant for children down
Right.
here. We have very little that's meant for older people, but I have to be honest, I've seen these shows and they're extremely entertaining, and I wasn't an Elvis fan at all. So whatever the artist is, whether it's a tribute, we've had a lot of 80s stuff here, but then sometimes we have country, and you have to realize that we pull from more people than who's in just Villa Rica. We are where Carroll County, Douglas County, and Paulding County all come together, and people from Haralson County sometimes, including family of mine, come into events here because there's, they don't have anything going out there at that particular time. So anyway, I don't.
Okay, I'm not against it. I'm not against it, but I don't think this is well thought out, and I don't see a budget, and I would like to know what is being pledged and have a list of what's being pledged before I approve this.
All right,
That's the end.
All right, Mr. Carter.
Okay. If you go to one of the bidders on the July the 3rd sound and lighting, a bid of $1,500, based on your $10,000 estimate, that brings it back down to her $13,000 range. So
No, and
That's fair.
we pay $4,000 at some things. It depends on if it's a 12-hour event. July 3 is different.
Yeah, I would expect that to be more
Yeah.
expensive.
But yeah, you can get sound anywhere from about one of
they
the bids
bid,
$1,500 up
Chris
to
Brown
about
bid
$4,000.
$1,500 on July 3rd.
Yes.
So they
Still-
need to be more reasonable. So
That is more reasonable, but still, I am just concerned about the city footing and the complete amount of an unbudgeted item. I would like to know who's pledging money and where the money's coming from before I'd approve. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Anybody else got any way? All right. Let me just try to bring some clarity. So, last month when this came up, I had an honest, discussion about this in this room, where I talked about whether or not this was a budgeted item and bringing a new event in and how much it would cost. And what I said to Ms. McPherson then and what I'll say today, I'm not for or against this one way or the other. I don't oppose anything that we do down there that is something for our community. This doesn't seem to me to be anything that I would have any reason to oppose. My concern then, though, was that it was going to be a private event. And as a private event, there were some things that needed to happen. She could apply for some grant money. She could, raise this money herself, those two things together, and then put this together. And then I even said, well, maybe after you get that together, come back to the council and let's see if we can co-sponsor it, because I thought maybe we would give the amphitheater at no cost. Maybe we would include them in some of our marketing materials. I thought that was a possibility. But then Ms. McPherson called me a couple of weeks after, I don't know exactly when, but at some point, and we had a candid conversation, and she said, look, I'm having some concerns about how do I account for this money. And I agreed with her that when people start writing you a check, that's a little bit concerning, because I don't know how that could look, right? I'm not saying anybody would do anything wrong, but it could look bad. So at that time, I said, I understand that, and maybe you need to take that up with David. And I think she began to have some conversations with David about how that would look and what you would do. So, but that's two different things. Because the truth is, there could have been another way to get that money without going to the city. So here's what the question is today. This is really the question. Do you keep this as a private event and let the city sort of be a co-sponsor, and you find some other organization to accept the money and put all that together? Or do you let the city take this thing and say, we're adding a new event and all of staff is now going to be running this thing, and they're going to start it just like any other event that they would plan in advance? And if we're going to do that, then it concerns me, and I think Ms. McCoy is exactly right. We've never approved something that just said, I'll pay whatever is left over. Certainly we're not going to, I can't imagine that we would ever do that. So we are going to need to know what this is going to cost and what we would ultimately expend. So what I'm going to ask the council today is, if you want this to stay as a private event, and then we maybe sponsor a free meal, I'm talking about the rental at the amphitheater, maybe some marketing or something like that, or if you want to look at the city adding this as a city event for October the 6th to bring this talent in, and if you do, what we're going to need to do is direct staff to go back and put together a budget and tell us exactly what this is going to cost, like they would do any other event, and then bring it back in May to decide if you're going to vote on it. Those are really the two options here. Either it stays private or the city takes over the whole thing. There is not an in-between where you partially run it and the city, goes along with whatever you're doing. It's one or the other. It's either private or it's a city event. That's the way I see it. David?
Yeah, and I would add to that, Mayor, Ms. McPherson did consult with me and talk to me about it, and the legal issue that I saw is that somebody, or the entertainer, wanted somebody to sign a contract with them, and I told Ms. McPherson that, I wouldn't advise any of y'all to sign an individual contract for thousands of dollars unless you were truly committed to it, but I wouldn't ever advise that. So that leaves the city to sign the contract, and it's great to want to raise money to defray the cost, but from my legal analysis, if the city signs a contract, we are committing ourselves to paying the full price if everything goes south. I mean, and that's really what, if the city is going to sign the contract, then you need to be committed to it. The council needs to vote for it to be a city concert and accept responsibility for that, knowing that you've got somebody who's offered to try and raise the funds, but I'm telling you, you're going to be fully committed to the full price if no money is raised.
Right, and I think that's a little bit of the concern, and to me, this is bigger than, I think, I just wanted to say this. The effort that you're making here feels to me very positive. It's a community event. I think it's a good thing. We did this some years ago.
We did.
We brought in but there's a lot more to this, and although we don't talk about it a lot, and I'm not going to talk about it here today, the city got left holding the bag on more cost with that concert than they should have, but that's not your fault, and I do not even mean to imply that.
Yeah, and it was
What
a
I'm saying
very
is that there's
short,
a lot of
short time
things
window
that you
time.
don't know. Like right now, are you going to have alcohol down there? Or how many officers are you going to need? Is our cleanup crew going to be involved? What hours are they going to need to be there? What is the overtime pay that's going to be involved? Are you going to sell tickets? Is there going to be reserved chairs and reserved tables? If there is, that's an outside vendor that has to do that. Bottom line is, either this is going to be a private event and we sort of sign on as a co-sponsor where we donate the use of the facility and some of those kinds of things, and maybe even a little bit of organizational help from our media folks. Or is it going to be a city event where you commit to raising a certain amount of money, and if you do, you do, but if you don't, like David said, we're going to end up paying it. And I don't know what that number is, but I suspect it's not too far off from that $20,000, because even your documents here show 13,000 plus 5,800. That alone is 18,800.
No, the 13,000 includes the
Included
50.
the band?
Yes, yes. If you
I
guys
think
did
that'd be tough.
if you did open records on the concerts and like I have and seen what we've done in the past, you're making this sound a lot more complicated. Main Street does these concerts all the time, so reserve seating is not complicated. They use the fresh ticks, you go on there, you reserve your seating. I am good with us not doing alcohol at all. I know we do that for some events, it's fine with me not to do that. I beg you, though, not to drag a decision on something like this out 3 months, because you're killing me with locking in the artist who has other dates. They're going to be in Georgia an hour away for a concert the following night. And the other thing is, I can't answer Councilwoman McCoy's question about who all is committing, because people don't commit to something they don't know is ever going to happen. So that's why I was looking to say, yes, we're going to do this. Then you go out and say, listen, we're going to do this concert, and would you help sponsor this? You know, and I've got to talk to Main Street about, they use kind of a tiered thing for sponsorships, and the sponsor gets a table, you know, so we can figure out some of this. But it's not that complicated. It's a lot less expensive, even on the face of it, than a lot of concerts we do. But with additional fundraising, it's a win-win. Do I feel confident in it? Yes, because easily last time in just a couple weeks, I was able to raise 4 to 6, I think it's 5 to 6,000 in just a few weeks. Here I have months to do it, and we have enough contacts and business people and property and people that love this sort of thing. And I just beg you not to make this take 3 months to make a decision on. This is now the second meeting and discussion on this item. It's not as complicated as it's made out to be. Yes, we have done it before, only we did it with a very short window to raise the money on the Alabama Blues Brothers. And it would give us an additional fun event downtown. So am I asking you to put some confidence in the ability that I can raise the funds? Yes, I am. But other than that, what you said about security and the staff, they know who has to be there for what amount of hours exactly now. I didn't get those numbers before this meeting, but they're there, because we do concerts like this. We've been doing them for years downtown. And this is a 2-hour event. So it gets set up on a Friday, probably during work hours. I don't know how they figure the pay, if they pull them off other jobs, or if the guys got time to go over there and put up some tables and chairs only for the reserve. The lights and sound is all done by the people you pay lights and sounds with, light and sound. And you have your Main Street volunteers that are wonderful and help with downtown events. And you do have to have a little security. I'm good with not doing the alcohol. But the longer we drag this out, I can't get the artists then. I put significant amount of effort into this, including putting together the entire budget. Got another friend to help me to figure out what we would need to do on advertising, on anything that would cost, aside from the free social media stuff you can use. I've thought about clubs that can be involved, Golden City Cruisers. There's age groups that you target. And then there's people that just like fun stuff downtown. It doesn't have to be their genre. Heck, I've come and watched the Velcro Pygmies, the big 80s hair and stuff that I wasn't into at all. It's a downtown event and it's fun. And our businesses are struggling, our downtown businesses. I'm not saying this is the end all for them, but it sure doesn't hurt for them to have activities that get people down here.
Mr. Carter?
We approved a budget that had a certain amount in it for events.
Sure.
Where do we stand on that budget?
Jennifer, could you look that up real quick? Let me ask.
Wait, I have one more comment.
Well, I wasn't
I have a
quite through
question.
either.
No, I'm going to let you. I want to do something while she's getting the number. I don't have the number. Do you want to talk while she's getting the number?
Yeah,
Okay.
I firmly believe that if we approach to bring an event to Villa Rica and we have a slot open, that we should do our level best to try to bring it here, because I believe bringing stuff downtown is a good idea. So I'm totally for, if we can get an event, it needs to become a city event. I agree that cities should take over control of it, and it's no way to mix the two, but we should be able to add an event if there's a spot there and we have the budget for it.
Let her get the number, but I think that I know you well enough to know that you're not going to approve a motion that simply says we will pay whatever is left over. So,
Yeah, I'm saying it should be
Mr.
city
let me-
control.
Mayor,
all right, let
After,
me let Matthew.
well, after Councilwoman McCoy, because she got your attention
Oh,
first.
I'm sorry. Well, I was trying to get to Tom too. All right, Miss McCoy, you're right.
All right, and I'm saying this with love and affection, but I've been an accountant for God knows how long. Don't come at me with a budget without a spreadsheet, people. I'm just telling you, don't, and I won't approve it. I'm not going to approve it. It needs to be detailed and itemized. On that note, though, I agree with Councilwoman McPherson and Mr. Cart and Councilman Carter that we do need stuff downtown. It does bring things into the businesses and everything. I'm not against that. What I'm against is spending frivolously and spending with no plan whatsoever. And when budget time comes up every year, there are council members who want to lower the millage rate, but yet they want to bring in unbudgeted items. And so that may not add to the quality of life.
Okay, hold on. Jennifer, you have that number for me? All right, $640. All right, Mr. Montahan, and then I'm going to get Tom.
I just wanted to know, is it feasible, and maybe this is a David question or a Tom question, that we could do some kind of not to exceed number for the city's financial contribution to this? Would that, I know obviously, I don't know is that possible, like
I'm
$2,500,
sure we could do that,
$5,000?
but it'd be helpful if we had a budget to even know what that number would be. But hold on just a second.
I did
Tom.
everything on the budget, submitted it and sent it to 3 different people at least, except for the city's part because I could not give the numbers for the staff and the police. I could not do that part.
Okay, Tom.
This is next year's budget.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Right, it would be because it's October 6th.
Yep.
Okay. Well, still, Mr. Carter's point, it was still, I mean, that doesn't help me, Tom. Why?
It kind of does help you
That makes
because.
it worse.
when
No,
it's
now
next-
you want to spend next year's money now?
No, we can take that we can take that into account when we come put the budget together, allow for some extra events on the events budget, so.
Well, she don't want to wait till October 1st when we approve that budget.
It'd
do
be
that.
really hard to plan an event and lock
All
in
right.
an artist. And if you're really interested in saving money, I would highly recommend that you not bring in artists that are $10,000 by themselves, and that's just part of it, and artists that are $25,000 by themselves, while we ignore local and regional artists that I've seen hardly any of our local people. We have people in Dallas that are not The Voice. What's the other one? American Idol's one. They're like winners or first runners up. So there's a lot of things we could do if you're interested in saving money.
David, talk to me a little bit about what the councilman suggested, because I have a little bit of uncertainty about how we would do a not to exceed and still be responsible for it. Like, for example, if we were going to do a not to exceed on a detention pond cleanup, and then it still cost more than that, it's not like we can just stop at the not to exceed number.
And part of our, you could do it on part of it, but on the contract with the performer, it is a fixed amount. So we know it's what it is. It's $5,800. So yeah, you can approve the agreement not to exceed $5,800 because that's what it is. As far as the other cost, I can't tell you what those costs are, and something I told Ms. McPherson is that until this council tells us to go forward with this as a city project, the staff can't do a whole lot on that because we're not going to, and I say we, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, not the whole staff, but I don't plan a whole project because any individual council person asked me to do that. I need to get a vote from 3 of you, unvetoed, and then we go forward with it at that point, as that's a City of Villa Rica project. And so we haven't done a whole lot of planning on the budgeting, but if you approve it as a city project, you got some really good people who'll get to work on budgeting it and planning it out and telling you exactly how much it costs, but they're not gonna do that until y'all tell us to do it.
All right, I see this two ways. Like I said 5 or 10 minutes ago, ever how long it's been. It's either going to be a private event, and the city will possibly, partner the way I described earlier. This is what I need the council to. This is how this motion is going to read, one way or the other. Somebody tonight is going to read a motion. It's either going to be a private event. We're not going to take it up at all, or we're going to direct staff to go back and plan this as a city event and bring it for approval in May. Do you see another route for this?
No, I don't see another route for it. I don't think I think the motion that you have before you will answer that question affirmatively or negatively. You're either going to make it a city project, or by default, it's something else.
And I get that, except I would like the council to have numbers before they just outright reject this. Because I've never seen this council agree to a motion that reads like this. Because they don't know what the number is going to be.
I didn't write the motion. David helped me with the cover sheet,
I-
and I'm ready to make a motion, though.
So you understand?
That's right, that's
Yeah,
tonight. But I'm ready to make a motion.
If Councilwoman McPherson has a motion to make, she can make it, and we'll see what the vote is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's how I think it can get done, but we'll see what happens. All right, let's move on to B1, Amendment to Section 2, Administration of the City of Villa Rica Zoning Code. There'll be a public hearing on this item. Ron,
Good afternoon.
are we ready on this, Ron?
No.
I didn't
no,
think so.
I thought we were.
I
a month
remember
ago
now.
and a month before that, but we've decided to roll these changes in with some more substantial
I understand.
changes. Yeah, for chapters 1 through 7.
I knew that, and just as I finished reading it, I said, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be even doing this today. So
Yeah.
let's
Put it
roll
in
this
red.
over to May, okay? Oh, it's
Yeah.
in red? Well, I don't have that on my screen. Okay, let's, thank you, Ron. Let's move on to C1, filling a vacancy for the library board. Rachel Lynn, come on up. Yeah. No, I'm saying I didn't see it on the screen. I had already seen it at the time, and I got an email.
All right. I'm looking to fill a vacancy on
Oh, could you pull that mic down a hair?
Is that, did I do it?
That's
I did it,
got
all right.
Good deal.
A little shorter. To fill a vacancy in the Library Advisory Board. Cheryl Bell's term has expired, and she's reapplied for the position. And the staff is recommending that Cheryl Bell be reappointed to the Villa Rica Library Advisory Board to fill this vacancy for February 1st through of 2023 to December 31st of 2025.
All right, council, do you have any questions?
I just
Mr.
have
Montahan.
Question. So I know we just did the first or we're going to do the first reading of the home rule ordinance for the board commission terms. This appointment or the motion that's proposed in here is not consistent with that. But since we're not going to approve that home rule ordinance until May, can we make this subject to that, or could we suggest that we modify the motion to make it in
David?
accordance with that?
I think once you enact the home rule amendment, all of those terms are going to revert to compliance with that anyway.
Yeah,
So there's
'cause-
no
So I-
problem with leaving this like
No, I
this?
think you can go ahead and approve
Yep.
it today.
Okay.
And
all right, very good.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else? Okay. Seeing no one else, is there any objection to making this consent number 4?
Nope.
All right, thank you,
Thanks.
Rachel. All right, D1, Main Street alcohol agreement with Uncorked Domain for the 2023 concert series at the Mill Amphitheater. Miss
Okay,
Doyle.
good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Hello.
I have 2 requests for you. The first one is to approve the alcohol license agreements with Uncorked on Main with the City of Villa Rica. As you know, we have 5 concert events coming up, and we have 2 businesses in town that have a catering license. I checked with Olive Tree, and they passed on this opportunity. So Melissa with Uncorked on Main said they would be glad to do this again this year. So she has reviewed the license agreement and has signed them and wishes these to be approved. David Mecklin, our attorney, has also looked at these agreements. The agreements are, they're separate agreements for each event. So the 5 events that they will be serving beer and wine at the Mill Amphitheater are the first one, the West Georgia Jazz Festival. It's coming up Saturday, October the 29th. Then we have summer concert number 1, Saturday, June the 3rd. Summer concert number 2, Saturday, July 22nd. Summer concert number 3, Saturday, August the 5th. And the Gold Rush Summer Concert on Friday, September the 8th. Staff recommends use in Uncorked on Main to provide beer and wine sales at all 5 events.
All right. Council, does anyone have any questions? Mr. Carter?
Olive Tree has been doing this in the past, is that correct?
They have done it, but they did not last year. It was Uncorked on Main. So when it came up this
So
year,
Olive Tree has decided just to pull out of it altogether. They don't want to get involved in it.
she just said that she would pass on it this year.
Okay.
So I wrote her back and told Teresa at Olive Tree that we will ask them again next year and said, okay,
Dave.
thanks.
Sorry.
Sometimes I don't have to stay.
Your
All
mic's
right.
on, David.
Mr. Carter, are you finished? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's because the mic is on. All right. Anybody else? All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number 5? All right. Let's go do D2, special event request for Prospectors Park. Alyssa?
Okay, I have a request from Brian Britt. He's the owner of Hickstown Brewery, and he has requested the use of Prospectors Park for his 4th anniversary celebration on Saturday, April the 29th from 1 to 7. He will have a band playing from 2 to 6, and Brian is only requesting the use of the park. He did complete a special permit application with NYRE, and Tom has a copy of that. Hickstown Brewing, like I said, he's owned and operated by Brian. The business opened at 407 Main Street 4 years ago. He is current on his alcohol and occupational permits. I verified this with NYRE. And as you know, the park is located at the corner of Main Street and North Avenue, across from Hickstown. It's owned by the city of Billerica.
All right. In the past, have we had any issues with that park being cleaned up or left in as good a condition as it was found?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. Do we typically charge for the use of the park?
No, we do not rent that park at all. In fact, no one even requests to use that park.
Well, it happens to be conveniently located for this
Yes,
merchant.
it is very
All right. Does
convenient
anybody have any
located.
questions? All right. Ms. McCoy.
Isn't that the Jazz Festival as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's not gonna interfere with the city event?
Well, I had a conversation with the city attorney, and he felt like they're too separated,
Okay,
that
all right.
the Jazz Festival actual concert starts at 4. That's when the first band will play. His is from 2 to 6.
Okay.
Ken Ford is scheduled to come on around 7:30 that Saturday night. So,
Okay,
You think
Yeah.
there's enough separation
Okay.
on those two?
I was just wondering.
yeah, he won't be selling alcohol or anything at that event. You remember, this is in the entertainment district now
Yeah.
than what it was before, so they can actually walk out of Hickstown with a cup of beer and walk over there. So he's just requesting the use of the park.
Are they requesting to close that side street?
No,
For
he
any
has not
period of time?
requested
Okay.
that to me at all.
All right. Well, it just seems to me that if you got people walking across that street drinking beer, that we might want to close the street. So, Chief, I think that if we approve this tonight, I want that street closed off over there. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Ms. McPherson?
Yeah, more of a comment, and it was a different one until you mentioned closing off the street, because now that it's an entertainment district, people can walk that way anyway, anytime, including across Candler, all the way down to the mill, but not in the mill unless there's a special permit. So they're already allowed to do that, and I don't know if we charge the expense of closing that road and who we have to have there to the business owner, but this is an example of a win-win. You have a private business putting on an event, and I didn't know it was on the Jazz Festival time, putting on an event that brings people downtown. They have, I don't know what he's having this time, but last time they had acoustical guitar. It was kind of mild stuff there. And it cost the citizen taxpayers $0. So this is a win-win when you have businesses that are willing to put on their own stuff and get people downtown, you know, including when they're doing special events at some of the other places or Olive Tree, but this one, particular one is outdoor. But with closing off that street, I don't know how that decision, if it's made administratively, how much does it now cost that business owner to have that street closed off, or does it? Because in the past, it seemed it did. And that needs to be taken into consideration if we're now going to make the business owner pay more money to have their event. That needs to be at least introduced and thought about.
Anybody else? All right, Tom?
My recollection is when we've done this in the past, we've closed the road. And when we close the road, we require the operator to have security there. And there has been significant resistance to the idea of that expense, which I think has led to this application not including the road closure. But I don't recommend we do this without the road closed.
I can't imagine that we would. Even if you're
We didn't-
allowed
we
to
never
do it, this
have.
is a special event that you know is going to cause congregating. I mean, that's different from you just happen to be moving
Right.
because you're a customer today.
Yeah, you're not walking the Cowboys to eat.
So
Can we include it? Can we include it with the road closures that are done right around the mill?
He just doesn't want to pay for it.
It can cost hundreds.
He mentioned to me that he knew it was entertainment district
Yeah.
and that the restaurants can walk around, people can walk out of the restaurants, and he said, all I need is the park.
We made him change the application last
Yeah,
time.
it's a tough time for small businesses right now. Some of them are struggling even to survive in this economy. Everything costs more. I just want us to be cognizant of that. We have vacant storefronts that weren't vacant months ago. Small business is getting killed in numerous ways, and I just want us to be cognizant of things that cost them a lot more money. And if there's a way that we can do it, we're shutting down roads up here. We're going to shut down this road for an event, and we're going to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for that event. And most of it's going to be taxpayer dollars. I just want us to take care of our small businesses.
how much does that cost? What's the fee for that? Whatever it costs to close the road.
We,
If it includes an officer, then yes, the cost. If it's just the barricade,
oh, I have it down as 40 an hour. I didn't realize it went up. Is it up?
he said if it's alcohol, it's 45. How many hours is it?
Well, the setup is from 1 to, well, let's see. He's requesting it from 1 to 7. The band will play from 2 to 6, so they'll use the park from 1 to 7. So there'll be some walking over there with alcohol in their hand, but it will not be sold at the location. They just have a band
At
playing, that's all.
Prospector Park. I understand what you're saying.
But what I remember before the application he presented before was before the entertainment district. Well, actually, I have a copy of it with me. It was, I think I do. No, I didn't bring it with me, but it was before the entertainment district when we did this before.
So, David, can you opine a little bit on that? I mean, you understand, I'm in a little bit of a spot here.
I understand it, and I don't really have anything to add. I mean, to block the road off, you go out and stick out a couple of sawhorses to block the road off. Do you need a police officer there to monitor that?
Bingo.
Is that our policy, Tom, that we have an officer there? So, policy.
Okay, if that's the policy, then I don't have any argument other than that.
So when we
Mr.
block off a
Montana.
road, we have to have an officer there, or is the officer there because the alcohol is being served? Okay.
Well,
Except
it's
that
not
it's an
being,
entertainment
it's
district.
not
Sure.
being
It's not being
served at
served,
the
right.
park.
At the
They're
park,
being
right.
served at the businesses. They may walk out there with alcohol in their hand, but it's not being served there.
Right.
Yeah.
We We understand that, but there is a difference between having a special event across the street and just operating your regular business.
Yeah, I know that. I'm just telling you what the application's for.
I understand, and
just want
that's
you to
why
be
there's a
sure.
little bit of a question here
But
about
I
what we
need to
do.
go back and tell him if there's a police officer required so they can get that paid.
Right.
Can we consider that,
I
can we
wasn't
look at
so-
that, can that policy be looked at? I mean, if there's barricades with reflectors and everything else and the road is blocked off, does somebody really have to stand there at that barricade and do this? Because it's a real quiet street. I mean, it's little
Is
and
that
it's
what they
quiet.
do, Chief? They just stand there and do that?
They don't stand with their hands in the air.
The concern I have is finding also that's gonna be able to do it, since we also have the jazz festival, we have officers working that, officers working the street. So, I mean, it's one of those things that if alcohol's served and they're having an event, and I know Elise is saying it's not served at the park, but it's being served, they're gonna be walking back and forth. Usually we require an officer there, that's y'all's decision there.
That policy did exist before we had the entertainment district, though. Just like Carrollton has on the square, and they have to cross 4 streets to walk around the square, or to walk across and go down to their amphitheater. It just kills me that we can add hundreds and hundreds of dollars, let me just say hundreds of dollars onto an event that a business owner wants to put on downtown. And I'm not a small business owner, but I talk to these people down here. You know what's going on. And we need to be cognizant of that because it's a tough time for them.
I'd say there's not
Even
a
when it's
rental
not a
fee,
tough
but
time.
there is $100 fee, special event permit. He did pay for that.
And a $500 bond for cleanup. So, Tom.
If the council doesn't like the policy, they should vote to change it.
Yeah, I mean, that's my point. If it's a policy, it's a policy. And if we need to look at policies and change them, then I don't mind looking at that. But I mean, I have a real concern with leaving the road open. And if our policy is if we close the road, we have to have an officer down there, I don't see how we don't do that.
Okay.
It's not safe.
And we're the ones that's gonna end up with it when it's a problem. And I can't condone that we would approve that without that stipulation. It's the policy. It really shouldn't even be before us.
It's not safe to have the barricades there. I mean, close it off that way. I'm not saying what the policy also existed prior to the entertainment district. So there's a whole lot of things we probably need to look at because we didn't have an entertainment district.
Does the entertainment district go all the way down to Hickstown? I need
Yes.
somebody
Yes.
it does? Is that where it
Pretty sure.
stops?
No,
Stops further down,
down at
right?
Robbie's.
Does it
doesn't
go all the way down to the
Robbie's,
new
down to
place?
Robbie's.
Down to Cheese.
Okay.
And to be honest, there's a lot of things that aren't safe walking around downtown that we need to improve, that we could do now, that I'd like to see us do just on a general basis, but to make it more pedestrian friendly. But
Mayor.
Yeah.
I quit.
All right, Ms. McCoy, sorry.
Okay, $45 an hour times 4 hours for one officer is $180. This is what we're arguing about. I just thought I'd bring that up. It's $180. I know, but they're doing setup and stuff. I'm thinking like probably when the band gets there, if they wanted to compromise, if they wanted to cut costs, okay, so 6 hours, 45, add another 90. We're looking at what, 270? Yeah.
Your events had 3 officers, didn't they? Have about 3 officers. At the time I was
Is
there,
one officer sufficient, Chief?
there was,
Is one officer,
It'd be a big crowd for there to be more than one.
is one officer sufficient for this? All right, hold on, Mr. Carter.
Okay, you say he didn't ask to close the road because of the fee. Is this what he's talking about, the $600 or so dollars?
He just mentioned to me that all he needs is the park and not everything that he had before because we're in an entertainment district. We won't be serving alcohol there. The people will be coming out of the business with the alcohols to come check out what's going on there.
But you think he would agree to pay the fees for the officer?
I mean, if it's required,
to
I'll
close the
tell
road?
him and he'll have to pay it if he wants to have the
Okay,
event.
yeah, that makes sense. We have a policy, we have to follow it, so just to get an answer from him.
Okay, 180?
It's
Sounds like more than that.
270.
It's 6 hours of
It's-
police officer. So we're gonna do this tonight. Now, if he can agree to this and y'all can update this application before tonight, because I'm not gonna put it on the consent agenda, then we can approve, I'm sorry, then we can approve it tonight, saying that, he will close the street and pay 6 hours for a police
Yeah,
officer.
tell him it's part of the policy and we
But
have
that's
to pay
the
for
only
the
way I'm gonna be
officer.
able to do it. It really shouldn't be before us without
I
that in there.
just need to be at home when I get off. That's all. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I tell you what, whether you're here or whether you're not, that's how we're gonna try to present it
Okay.
tonight and get it passed out tonight.
And
with
we have to have that
stipulation.
answer, otherwise,
3, so we have.
Unless you wanna modify, can you modify the motion now, David, and I'll ask if I can put it on the consent agenda that way? As long as nobody objects, I'll do it that way. I just want him to pay for an officer for 6 hours and close the street. That's the stipulation. All right, is there anybody who would object to making that consent number 6? All right, so that's what we'll do, and if David gets this worked out before we're done here, then that's what we'll do tonight, and you can just let him know after we're done here, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate
All right, E1, replacement of Microsoft Surfaces with Apple iPads. Jim,
Good afternoon, Mayor Council.
good afternoon, sir.
Bringing before you guys iPads again after discussing with the mayor for the iPads that we approved last time. We wanted to make sure we're getting the best device in front of you guys that has functionality and longevity. And an iPad Pro, we believe, would do that. The other iPads were $499. These are $1199. But I know it sounds like a very steep, but when you compare the longevity of a regular iPad, I went through 2 in the time that an iPad Pro sitting at my house is still ticking today, that I've had for over 8 years. It's still taking all the updates. It's taking all the iOS updates. All the applications still run. And I believe, Councilwoman McPherson, you ran into an issue when we switched over to Office 365 with your iPad. You had to
Yeah.
upgrade because
Microsoft and them hate one another or something.
well, you can no longer do the updates because of how the age of the iPad.
Yeah, I had to get a newer iPad in order to take the newest Outlook for the mail and everything.
This combats that as putting a device that stays in front of you for a lot longer time.
Okay, so this is different from what we were presented before.
Correct.
Okay, so let me try to, just a second, I'll recognize you. But here's what happened. So Jim was already working to say, hey, are we gonna be using Verizon or AT&T? Because as you all probably know, if you drive through downtown, we have terrible cell service. And I use Verizon, so I'm assuming it's a Verizon issue. But Jim has gone and met with representatives from AT&T, is that right?
AT&T FirstNet, yep.
So that's really how this discussion got started, and then he decided on what he thought was best for us there, and I honestly don't remember which one it is. Is it AT&T?
We're going to move, the PD has already moved to AT&T FirstNet. Y'all been with them for a year and a half, and they're very happy with them. They were kind of the guinea pigs on that, so we're going to follow suit and move over, and what you get, what is it, first priority? Obviously, PD or EMS gets first priority, and then we fall right in line behind that, but we're basically above the coverage of the citizens whenever there's saturation on the network.
Okay.
And when you drive through downtown Villa Rica right now with Verizon, sometimes your data works, sometimes it doesn't. That is saturation on the network.
I'm gonna go
Verizon's
with
aware
most-
of it, but they're not doing anything
I'm
about
gonna
it.
go with most of the time it don't work.
Correct.
So then we got into the discussion about the actual iPads themselves, and I don't have an iPad, but what Jim said is, look, you can get these basic ones, and they'll probably basically do what you need, but they're probably not gonna last as long. And the better, so what
3
I
to 4
understood
years.
from Jim is that we're gonna get a better piece of equipment, and it's going to last much longer than if we pay, you know, I guess it's, what is it, like 60% less to go with a basic. You
Bigger
said it had a
screen,
larger screen, the
battery
operating
life.
system was better, the operating,
And faster.
the battery, and that it lasts longer. That's
Correct.
really what you got me on, is when you
Yep.
said that this thing is really gonna last longer. So that's how we got back here. Mr. Carter probably knows more about these iPads than any of us sitting up here, because I've seen him with an iPad or something as long as I've known him.
We went Apple 5, 6, 7 years ago, and we got a Pro. It's been up for
Just knocking it out. So, does anybody have any questions up here? Any concerns, anything? All right, I'm gonna get you, but Tom wanted to
That's fine.
speak first. I forgot.
just my personal experience, I started using iPads in 16, and I'd never buy the expensive one, which is what Jim's recommending, and I'm on my 4th. And I can't even upgrade the 3rd one because there's not enough there's not enough storage to even do an upgrade anymore. And the idea that y'all would buy something cheaper that's only going to get you 2 years, just to me, that's just not a smart use of money.
Isn't that what they do?
And I like this idea a lot better than where we started.
I have an iPad Pro at the house. My wife uses it as her main basic computer, basically, and it's been going for over 8 years. It's one of the very first iPad Pros that came
How
out.
much memory do these iPads have?
I believe they're 256 gigs around, or a gigabyte of storage.
So that's the lowest. Oh, it's a full gig, not 256 meg.
256 of storage, of hard drive space. It's got an M1 chip in it, which is what some of your MacBook Airs have.
Yeah. One of the things that I do in life, like today they're re-roofing my house, and I could have bought the cheaper shingles, but they weren't going to last as long. What I'm getting out of this is I'm getting double the time and a better look on those shingles. Those guys are putting on the more expensive stuff.
Paying up front, but getting better on the back end.
That's right, and that's sort of how I think about things. I mean, it's not that I pay the cheapest amount today, because you do pay, just you drag it out over time. So I don't mind making your recommendation. I don't mind making that investment. I appreciate you saying that. You had not said that to me before. So anyway, Ms. McPherson.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the reason we went with the first, I'm IT challenged, but I've used iPad for a long time. And I think the reason we went with the first proposal is because it was proposed to us from you, and you know more than most of us on this. So I don't have a problem with this changing if it's the best way to go. I'm on my 2nd iPad, so I don't know, maybe I don't store as much on mine, because I'm still a laptop person too, even when I'm camping in the RV. If there's Wi-Fi anywhere, I've got the laptop, but I've also got the iPad that I can use no matter where I go, because it's mobile. So I can be on top of a mountain using that one. And I keep mine a lot longer than 2 years, but I will defer to those who know more than I do about this, and that would be you. I would say on that Otter box case, is that $545, you can probably pick up a really good case at one of the electronic stores. I did. I've got a nice cover, sets up good. It's easy to carry. It's got a strap on it, so you can kind of secure it on your hand.
And I always feel
if you're walking.
is a personal preference. And,
Yeah.
I'm more than willing to work with each of you on which case
maybe
you
get
want.
them, maybe you don't. or
I'll get
whatever.
my own case.
All right. So
Okay.
any other questions?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Carter.
It looks like the 545 is actually for all of us, right?
Correct. If I was to buy a case for each individual one,
Yeah.
correct.
So that's 7 cases, okay.
All right.
Or 6.
Yes, sir. All right. Anybody else? No? Okay. All right, Jim, I think you'll be fine.
Thank you.
Let's do it. All right. Anybody got any objection to making that consent number 7? All right. Thank you. Let's move on to F1, recreation fee schedule update. Tracy?
Hello.
All right.
Good afternoon. Again, first agenda item here, I believe it was in 2019 before you guys probably saw what our fee structure was or made any adjustments to that. So I'm here today to ask for a revision on our fee structure. Provided a chart for you that tells you what our facilities or amenities are that we do rent, what the rental fees are for the time frame, whether there's a deposit required or not, whether there's any staffing required or not. That's based on the event and my approval. And it also goes down into our athletic fees and those types of things. I provided some comparisons for you just to see how well we are within our neighboring communities, so that you see that we're not gouging on our registration fees, we're not gouging on our athletic fees, causing families to leave our programs and going to a neighboring community. The main thing that I want you to look at is our current and proposed fees for pavilions. We currently do not charge for the first 4 hours. After the first 4 hours, we go to a $50 a day fee. We are getting ready to bring on board a new pavilion at the V-Plex at the playground, and those are very popular. They're used all the time. We are proposing a $15 per hour fee for the use of the pavilions with a minimum of 2 hours. One thing to note is during the splash pad operations, we will not rent out that pavilion because we're deterring people from bringing in food, and that pavilion will serve as that place to go eat and hang out while they're, trying to get a snack or something like that. The other thing is our splash pad daily admission. Last summer, we did not charge. We did not have a fee admission or a fee schedule. This year, we're proposing $2 per person per session. Last year, we just opened it at 10 o'clock and closed it at 4 o'clock. We have one splash pad and a lot of people who want to use it. So what we've decided to do is break it down into different sessions so that deters people from coming and staying all day. We only have a 50-person capacity limit. So we think if we break it down by session, that we can have more people access the facility, more kids can enjoy the facility, and we can generate a little revenue in the process. We did hire 2 attendants last summer, so this will help offset the cost basically for that and for chemicals that we use. And it is used a lot. We're also proposing a rental fee for private rentals. And so we had a lot of calls last year. Can I rent it? Do you have a fee structure in place for that? We didn't at the time, so we didn't rent the splash pad or the pavilion, but we're trying to do that again this year. Or trying to do that this year, and that would be $150 per 2-hour rental. And we would still adhere to the 50-person capacity so we don't overrun the area inside the fence. So those are just some of the things we want to do in this fee structure. Also wanted you to see what our current fees were for other rentals and how we compare with the neighboring communities.
So I've looked over the fee schedule here. I have and it looks like you've thought through it, made some comparisons, tried to make sure that we were providing, adequate services for the fees that we're charging. But I'm a little bit concerned that I got an email today. Someone was pointing out to me that the Recreation Advisory Committee, I guess, either had not been meeting or hasn't met, but either way wasn't involved in looking at this fee schedule. So when is the last time that advisory committee met?
We were scheduled to meet, our next meeting is in May, so we meet quarterly, so that would have been early this year. And I had nobody respond that they could attend the meeting.
So you had a meeting when?
It was probably January.
Would it have been that early?
Well, we meet quarterly, so if our next meeting is in May, it would have been January, February. Maybe February.
But nobody could come?
No, sir.
All right. It's important to me because what about my standing committee? Did you get out a schedule for that?
We do.
And have you been meeting?
We had our meeting this year was scheduled on Martin Luther King holiday, and we were not able. January. That was January, and we did not reschedule that.
Okay. That needs to be scheduled. Those standing committee meetings need to be put out to those members that are on that. And the advisory board is really reporting that they're not getting involved. So I don't know if there's a cross-up in communication there, but we need these citizen advisory boards to be. And I don't want to make a whole, because it's just you and you're not the only one that has these committees. Right. It's just that when you bring forward a new fee schedule, which you needed to do. I mean, we haven't done it because we had 20, that was COVID. 20
sure.
Yeah. And I know that we're just getting around to really getting this thing. But I need those advisory boards to be involved, and especially over there at the Recreation Department. And I'm getting too many people letting me know that they're not meeting. So if you're getting out the invitations and people can't show up, I mean, that's something I guess we need to know about so that we can start reaching out to people, because we put them on those boards and I want them at those meetings. Right. So if you're having problems getting them, but I don't want the problem to be us not scheduling it.
Sure, and it's not.
Okay. Okay. So and I'll leave it at that. But that we need to get that rectified. All right, council. Does anybody, Mr. Carter?
You mentioned per session. How long is a session?
Hour and a half.
Okay.
After about an hour, this is from our experience this past summer, after about an hour, the newness and the nuance wears off for these kids, and then they start creating their own little fun. The water doesn't do anything for them anymore. The features don't do anything more for them, so they create their own tag and chase, and those games are dangerous. So we'll just blow the whistle, clear the floor and start over. And one good thing too, and I know I didn't bring this up, and you haven't either, but we won't take any cash at the gate. You would have to pay online through our community pass, so there's no cash floating around between there and the main office up there. So everything will be done through community pass. We'll set those sessions up just like we set up baseball registration. If we have 100 kids that can register for this age group, when you reach 100, now you go to the waiting list. So once we reach 50, now you'll go to the next session. So you can only register up to 50 people per session.
So when is that going to open? When will it open for the summer?
Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day weekend, okay.
So-
And look, you guys had, Mr. Carter, hang on just a second. You guys had a real challenge out there when we first opened that, and I think you've come a long way in terms of how you do these sessions and exactly the fun that you were just talking about, how the thing would get overrun, and we had folks just dropping off their kids and leaving them there. We've gotten that under control now
Yes, sir,
by
we
having
have.
a monitor out there, by having these sessions. Okay, all right, Mr. Carter.
Okay, so the open sessions, from open to close, you blocked it off in one and a half hour sessions so they can sign up for any one of the sessions
That's
along the
correct.
way. Okay.
That's correct. And we built in some staff breaks. Once you get into July, late June, July, it's very hot. So they're going to need some staff time to go have a bite, to get a drink of water, and do maintenance in the restrooms and that kind of thing. So we built some small breaks in there, but for the most part, it's for the people to use.
Okay, so when people show up for a session, you check your list on your computer, make sure that they're supposed to be in for the session because you have a limit of 50.
They'll have a barcode as a receipt, and when our attendant acknowledges them, they'll scan that barcode, and then we'll
Allow them in.
allow
Okay.
them in.
Okay.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
Okay, I read it. Yes, I read every detail. I get the whole thing on the pavilions. I have no issue with the pavilions, but I did have a question or two. Okay, so what happens if somebody's just hanging out over there at the park, say Vplex, and they're using the pavilion just like you would at a lot of parks? I'm trying to think of my experience of the entire years we were bringing up kids, and even now, in a couple different cities. A lot of times when something is reserved, they'll post a sign, this is reserved, certain time not to use it, but the rest of the time, they really don't care if you go have a picnic there, but not to do it if somebody's there. So I want to know how that's going to work with enforcement. That's my pavilion question, and then I'll go to the next one.
Because we have such a high rate of use, we have started, in particular on the weekends, posting on the shelters when it's rented and what time.
Okay.
So other people know, hey, there's a rental here in 30 minutes. I don't need to spread out my, Bojangles or my Subway and all this because it's going to be rented. One thing that we will be looking at, in particular in the next budget cycle, is staffing for rentals and those types of things, because right now we don't have staffing for rentals. And you're seeing more and more just crazy behavior and just different things. We come in sometimes and the places aren't clean like we expect them to be, so we need to have eyes on those. So we'll be trying to incorporate some staffing into that. Our part-time staff has done a lot better monitoring those things, mostly on the sporting side, because we have those people in place now. But once we incorporate this, we know it's going to be incumbent on us to make sure we don't have people arguing over it, and that it's clean when one group leaves and another group comes in. That's very important to me.
Is that mainly weekends?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, when
During the week, we've got staffing at both locations, but on the weekends it'll be a little different animal to make sure we're doing our job.
Okay. All right, so the next one is having to do with the splash pad, and this is my opinion only, and it'll depend on how the rest of y'all feel on this. I would prefer that this thing about the fee for the splash pad be seen looked at by the advisory committee we appointed. And if there's an issue where people aren't responding to those emails, because I've seen that happen too, tell us. Because we put people on those committees, they're not responding at all, that's a problem. If they can't come that day, that's different. And I know it's helpful for us when we get something from the city, go, okay, we need to plan this, and we need to meet with all y'all. Here's 3 options. Which one can you be at? And you go with the one that most people can attend, right? Because I know people have a lot of different schedules. Okay, so on the splash pad, this is the part that I'm thinking about as a parent, a grandparent, just citizen, and that's why I like citizens' eyes on this, so they can give input. I want to hear what parents think too. All right, so we've now paid for this splash pad. People have been able to come. Now we're going to go, well, now you can't come if you pay $2, unless you pay $2. And on top of paying $2, grandma better know how to use that electronic system so she can now get this thing that needs to be scanned, because she didn't think about it till that day that maybe she'd take the grandkids over for a couple hours, and now she's got to figure out some way. Not all of them know how to do this, right? And it may not just be grandmas. It could be moms in some cases where they need to be able to get online and do something with a reservation to take their kid to play. And I don't know, when the number gets too many, then, it's a certain amount are involved in, and that's why you got a playground too. Then you can come over and cool off later. I don't know how I know you got to keep it clean. I don't know, you spray their feet or whatever. But I thought that was an advantage of that being there. When kids, you could have a kid playing baseball, and you could actually take the young ones over and play on the playground if you needed to while they're having baseball practice. And it's kind of nice that we have those amenities there. But I don't want to have people pay for us to do these things and then we charge them to do it. And I know it's not just city citizens. We're going to get people that aren't in the city. But that was my questions kind of about, it sounded really complicated to take your kid or kids when it came to, you got to have a reservation, you got to get online, and you got to scan, and you got to fit in a certain criteria. I would be happier if the advisory committee that we appointed to this at least knocked it around and batted that section around. I don't think the pavilions is very complicated. That's up to y'all. The pavilions isn't a big deal.
All right, anything else? All right, anybody else? Matthew? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, also, pavilion, no balloons. Is that was rule number 4. There were a whole bunch of rules. There was like 13. Is that because they can, at one of the pavilions, they can get in the splash pad? So if somebody was having a party under a pavilion, they could not have balloons?
More than anything, people take upon themselves to decorate, and they leave it. They'll decorate, tape and staples and just all sorts of stuff, and then they leave. So
and that's for people that don't reserve it, so it's not where you could have like a little fee that they don't get back or something because they didn't clean up.
Yeah, we're just trying to keep it so the next group don't have to come in and clean up after a prior group.
It's such a shame, because then all the good people that want to have a birthday party, who wants to have a birthday party under a pavilion and put nothing up? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what the answer is on that. That's why I like citizens and advisory committees maybe knocking this around. And
when we rent, it's not, you just don't go online and rent. You have to contact us. It's not an online reservation. You have to speak to a park representative. And we do
that's the pavilions, not the splash pad,
it's anything.
right?
It's the splash pad. It's pavilion. If you rent the VPlex Civic Center, you don't just go online and rent it. You have to come in and fill out an application, and you have a face-to-face with us. So we talk to people and we try to educate them. One of the things Ken mentioned to me when we came into the meeting was, getting the awareness out about these new fees and how to go about making the reservation. And, we don't want to make it difficult either, but,
if it's a face-to-face, how do I come in, if it's on a Saturday and I want to go take a couple grandkids to the afternoon session, how would that I'm just saying me, it probably won't be me, but I'm just using an example.
The face-to-face rental.
She's talking about renting the entire facility.
If you come in and rent.
Oh, yeah,
not the daily use. The daily use would have to be.
I'm good with the rental. I think that's a great idea. It's a way for people to rent it in off hours. Maybe it helps you all with some funding on taking care of things. I don't know, but if that helps y'all and you can do it in those off hours, I think that's a great idea. I'm talking about the face-to-face of this said you couldn't have balloons at pavilions.
We're trying to deter people to put up a lot of mess and leave it.
Well, no, they
Like-
can't put up any.
No, they do, because we don't have
Yeah.
anybody monitoring that
police
right
it.
now. But as I said earlier, we're going to try to rectify that when we go into the budget cycle, to have people in place that are available to, work with these, make sure they understand these are the rules. Do you need any help? Do you need a garbage bag? That trash can's full. Here's another garbage bag. Those kinds of things. Right now, we don't have that.
So if somebody rents it, there's a way where you're having the face-to-face, and you could say, listen, you need to clean up afterwards. If you don't, your name's on a list and you won't be renting again. Only I
right.
wouldn't say it like that.
No, ma'am,
Okay, I wouldn't say it like that.
we don't say it
That
like
was
that.
I was just being direct. However, when people are going in and doing it when it's not rented, nobody's there to police it. They could still be putting up stuff
Sure.
and ending up with the same conditions, right?
Yeah, it's just like
That's
kids going
wha-
in the bathrooms.
Yeah.
When we don't, there's no games, but there are kids in the bathrooms, and we could walk into the bathroom toilet full of rocks. I mean, those things happen.
Yeah.
That's the world we live in Parks and Recreation. So
I guess that's the reason I'd like to see more discussion on it, to see does it have to be nobody can put up any decorations when they have a party at a pavilion? Because, right, balloons aren't your own problem. You could put up streamers, or are we going to have that problem anyway, because we're going to have all the people that use it that don't rent it, that leave a mess too, and so we made a rule, but we didn't solve the problem. And I don't really want to be on the weeds on it. I think that's why I'd rather see somebody like the advisory committee or someone else kick it around with some parental input.
well,
you know,
I can.
Yeah, I'm
We
not
can
saying it's
remove this
bad.
item completely, and I can have a meeting because they're willing to meet
I don't know what you want.
All right.
on a regular
No, I
basis.
spent way too much time on this. Is there any objection to making this consent number 8?
Yes.
All right, so we'll move this to the regular session. I'm not going to keep on sitting here doing
All
this.
right.
All right, let's do
Mainly the
F2.
It's not all the other stuff.
July 3rd fireworks display, contractor recommendation.
Okay, of course, our fireworks event this year will be July 3rd. That's on a Monday. We did an RFP for bids, and we received one bidder, who obviously is a successful bidder. That was, where's his name?
It's Pyro Shows. East Coast.
Pyro Shows East Coast. They changed their name. So Pyro Shows East Coast was the who were recommended to do our fireworks show. They did these last year. Phenomenal job. No complaints. Everybody seemed to have a good time. They started on time, ended on time. They gave us everything we asked for in the RFP. So that's our recommendation.
And I think that I got more compliments about last year than I can remember getting in a long time. So I think they did a really good job. All right, does anybody have any questions on the fireworks display contractor? All right, Ms. McPherson.
Are they charging us less than they did before? Or am I not remembering?
This fee this year is 10% more than last year.
10% more?
10%.
Okay, maybe of some other years I was thinking we had to pay more.
All
Okay,
right,
thank you.
Anybody else? Is there any objection to making this consent number 8? All right, let's do July 3rd mobile covered stage.
Okay, this is an integral piece to our event. As you guys know, our mobile covered stage, we have to rent that out or lease that out or have a contractor come in. We did send that out as an RFP. We had received 3 bids. The company that did it last year, RCS Productions, also provided the sound and lighting. They did a great job. My recommendation, although they were the lowest bid in this, is to go with RCS Productions again to provide the mobile cover stage for the July 3rd fireworks show.
All right, any questions on this item?
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Carter.
Okay, I noticed that the low bid actually gave you 3 references. Did you contact those references?
We did not contact the references, but we talked to the contractor, and his answer to why he bid so low was that I am new to this. And
Not new, but he's been in the business
he's
a
been in the
while.
business. He's a sound technician. But being in the business as a sound technician and delivering a stage and lighting and sound and that stuff, to me, when we have an event of this magnitude, I would like to go on record with some successful history. And the RCS did a wonderful job last year. I know that's hard to look at because he did bid so low, but I just don't think he's familiar with the bidding because I wouldn't want to take a chance on somebody that bid that low.
But you didn't try to contact his references and check on him, see how well he's done in the past?
Well, I can tell you that for his Dallas markets, that's not a very big event.
He had three references.
And I didn't reach out to the other. After I spoke to him, after we spoke to him personally, we didn't reach out.
I would hate to think we rejected a low bid because we did not go do our due diligence and check on what he's done in the past, talk to the people he's worked for and done these things for. We waste a lot of taxpayer money if we take high bids and
Right.
the low bid qualifies.
And he did bid on the other. He
Yeah,
bid
he
on
did.
both, and
I noticed that.
He was extremely low on both.
And we picked the high bidder on the other one, so that's kind of disturbing that we're going with a high bidder.
I can check his references and on both of the components, come back and see what the references say. I just know last year we had a really, really good show, and it was. I would hate to put anything in jeopardy, but certainly I understand your point.
Yeah, I'd hate to waste taxpayer money.
Sure.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
I did a little homework on this one too. I also looked at the bids and I go, something's up here. We've got, this $4,000 stage. Okay, we got a $4,000, we got a $6,000 range, and we got an $1,800 range. So there's part of the homework I knew I didn't have to do, and that's this part. I didn't have to figure out if they met our specs, the specs that we require and send out, because staff does that, and if you don't meet the specs, you're out. So I knew I didn't have to do that part, so plus I wouldn't, right, how much do I know about all the equipment
Right.
things on the stage, and so I didn't do that, but this is what I did. I thought, there's got to be a reason it's low, and sometimes that means we can think bad thoughts. So I called him. I called Chris Brady and I talked to him. I also read his bio that was in our equipment on how many years he'd been doing this. He started back doing it. He was in the Navy. He started doing it with the military and then USO. And I said, well, let me ask you something. Your bid can be a little scary, so why don't you tell me why your bidding seems to be so much lower? And I got a couple different things. He says, number one, I'm solo. I know how to do it. I do it myself. So I don't have to hire the engineers and the tech. And I own my own stage, so I don't have to rent the stage. I'm sorry. Okay, so we're only doing stage, but I'm sorry, this kind of overflows into both because I asked him about both. And he says, so I don't have to hire those other techs. And he says, I use the latest technology. So there's machinery and stuff you used to have to buy that now I get it on a tablet and I go up there and I can do it all myself on the stage. He says, because I'm a solo guy, I don't have workers' comp. And he says, to be honest, now, I don't know whether this is true or not. It could be a bald-faced lie, but I have seen this happen. He goes, to be honest, there are a lot of businesses that can make good money off cities and they can charge more and they get it. So that could be accurate or not. What I do know is accurate is that he had to meet the specs with y'all, and that it does hold true that if you've got to hire these extra engineers and techs and stuff to run stuff, that it's going to cost more money. And if you have to rent the stage with somebody else that gets a cut, because that applies to another person that applied, and your stage person goes up by $1,000 or $2,000 or $1,500, and now you're having to charge more because the person you rent from. So, okay, so then I only had time to call one reference. I ran out of time, and I just got the call back today from yesterday. I talked to Andrew Rodriguez, who owns the Dallas markets. I also called their Main Street person, but they weren't on the list, and they don't use him. And the Main Street guy, Andrew Rodriguez, he and his wife own the marketplace out there, and I'd gone up to one event, only heard part of the concert in the big field. And this is just him. This is his ref. He goes, he will do it right. I've been very pleased. I did not talk to the other two. That's all I've got on that.
All right, anybody else? Okay, so here's what we're looking at here. You had 3 bids. One of them was 4185, and that's who you recommended.
Yes, sir.
You had Pop Audio, who used to do a good bit for the city, and they were at $6,073. And you've got Chris, who we have no history with, we don't know anything about. The difference between who you're proposing and Chris, who I don't know anything about, is $2,300. I'm asking, I heard what you said, just sort of,
Wait a minute, $2,300. I got 3.4 for Chris and 14K for the other one. We're talking about the RCS won't do it unless you let him have both of them. He wants sound and lighting and the stage.
Was that RCS or was that POPs?
Mr. Carter, that's my recommendation. That's not what he's telling us.
Okay.
It's my recommendation that he does
I-
all of this at,
I thought I
because,
read in there that he said that he had to have both of them to be able to do it.
no, sir.
I think
Okay.
that's POPs audio.
Okay.
Yeah. It's my
Well,
recommendation because I want the left and the right hand to be on the same page.
Okay. There's 2,300 on the first item. Go ahead, Gil.
okay. So your reasoning, you laid out for me. And oftentimes, look, people come in here, and sometimes we don't take the low bid.
Right.
We're always trying to figure out a way to save as much money as we can and to do the best with taxpayers' money. I mean, this is other people's money. I talk about that all the time. OPM, other people's money. But I have to rely on you to actually finally do this project, to put it all together. And I need to know that you have the confidence in what you're doing. They're asking you, what I just heard these 2 council people ask you is if you had contacted the references. So what I am going to suppose they're suggesting is that when you saw that there was this big difference, then you would have said, hey, you know what, if you meet all of the criteria, because I'm going to assume, like Ms. McPherson said, when you received all these bids, you checked them against the criteria. So they have represented to you that they met whatever your minimum criteria was for every bid. So what they're saying is, when you saw that one bid was less than half of what the next lowest bid was, did you then do any due diligence beyond that and contact references and say, hey, you know, I need to understand why I'm about to make a different decision, a different recommendation? And do you feel like you need to go back and do that at this point, or do you think that you can say to us, no, it's the history, it's my experience with these folks, it's the conversations I've had with him, it's the documentation that he provided? I mean, can you do that for me?
Well, I recommended what I did for that reason, because I do feel that there's a lot of moving parts between someone bringing in the stage, setting that up, somebody bringing in the sound and the lighting, setting that up. I had already decided that next year we would just bid this together as one package, so we don't have this one having a lower bid than this, just doing it as one package, because they relate to each other. I need to make sure that that the left and the right hand are working together, that the sound and lighting people aren't out there waiting around for the stage people to come and get there. They're having to wait on them. That's more staff time. For Mr. Brady to say he can do it by himself, I mean, that concerns me, because I've seen for the last 3 July 3rd events how many people it takes to pull this off. It's not just a single person with a laptop or an iPad, making decisions. So I just feel more comfortable with a vendor doing both. And if you take out the low bid and compare Mr. Miles' bid and RCS for both the covered stage and the lighting, it's a $700 difference.
Okay.
So
See, and I think that's what I'm looking. I don't know that satisfies
I'm not sure either.
someone else or others, but that's the point of why you're out there doing the work in the office. You have to actually make this happen. You're the one that everybody's going to look at when it don't go off without a hitch. So that's why. So this is your recommendation here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, do y'all have any questions now?
Yeah, who decided that they would be bidded separately if you like them better as a package?
Well, the last 2 years, actually last year, Mr. Miles did not bid. He did not bid on it. He's bid on it again this year. But just my reasoning behind doing it as a joint package it just makes more sense.
But she's saying, why didn't you do it
And
this year?
it didn't occur to me because it had always been done in 3 phases. It had been done sounding, lighting, fireworks, the bands. The bands, it's all been done differently.
Well, the bands have to be, but stage, sound and lighting. Sound and lighting have to be together, right? Have to be. The
They
stage,
need to be together.
You said you like the stage and the sound and lighting together. So who decided that the right hand wouldn't know what the left hand was doing and that wouldn't be bid together? I mean, if you like it that way, is there a reason?
I'm
we
saying
can't?
going forward, I would like to bid that together. We didn't bid it together this year.
Okay.
But I think it makes sense to do that going forward. It makes sense to bid it as one package.
It makes sense to me too.
I know they flow together.
All right. Any other questions on this? All right. So should we take? Are either of y'all going to object to making this a consent item?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take up F4 before we decide on this, so that we can look at these together. If you'll do that, Tracy.
Yes, sir. The same thing for this. Mr. Brady was very low bid. That just raises an eyebrow to me, not having any experience with him. I have no problem with going to some of his events to measure what he has. He may be a great person for your sound and lighting, Ms. McPherson, for your Elvis event. I don't know, give him some exposure here in the community. Have no problem going to seeing how he does and that sort of thing. Again, RCS did all the sound and lighting last year. I didn't have to get called to the side, not one time, for, hey, do you have this, and do you want me to go over here? How do we do this? It was all very seamless. Again, if you take Mr. Brady's 2 quotes out of the equation and you combine Mr. Miles and RSC for the stage and the lighting, it was $700 difference. So my recommendation again was to go with RCS Productions for the sound and lighting.
Anybody who looks at this has got to see that as an extraordinary outlier. I mean, $10,000 to $1,500, that would raise. I would have all kinds of questions about that, or I would do what you've done, which is discount it altogether. Because essentially, what you've done is just said that's so far out. I'm not even going to try to figure out how to make that work. I don't really see how it works. How can you do for $1,500 what 2 other folks essentially are around $10,000 on? Well, 9 and 10, I'll say it that way. All right, so I'm sure there's some questions on this too. Mr. Carter?
My biggest problem with this is, since he did give 3 different places where he did the job, we should have checked all 3 of those to see if he did a good job. If he did a good job, I don't see how we can turn him down. I don't care what his bid is. If he thinks he can do it for that and he's doing most of the work himself, he's getting into the business, or he's in the business and trying to grow his business. You can't just go ahead and say, oh, this one has got the highest price, we're going to take him just because he did a good job last year. You might have somebody that's going to do a good job, is going to save a lot of money for the taxpayer.
Yes, sir.
So you need to do that due diligence.
That's a hard word to get out.
That's a hard one. Anyway, you need to check those references and see if all 3 of these jobs he did was a good job. And I don't see how we can turn him down if he's doing a good job.
I don't know if I can convey to, when I'm asking questions about his performance, I don't know if I can convey to those people, those references, the scope of our work.
Right.
The scope of what we are doing.
Well, I would ask what their scope is. Obviously you want to know what he's done.
I would
Mayor?
say, yes, sir, and I'll recognize you next. But when we think about, let's think about something that we all can relate to, because we're not experts on sound and lighting. I mean, there's no question about it, and I hate to pretend like anybody up here is an expert on that, because they're not. I'm not an expert on landscaping, but I'm going to talk about that. I can call somebody out to do my yard, and they may give me a quote for $150, and somebody else may give me a quote for $1,000. But the scope of what gets done is completely different based on a person's experience. Some people think you have to go in and clean out all the flower beds, get rid of all the weeds. They get it done right, and some people just get something done. Mm-hmm. Like this sound in this room here, or take for example the V-Plex over there. That equipment that we've had for a long time, a sound came out of those speakers, but it was awful. But there was sound, right? Well, now we've spent money on it, and that thing works. I think the quality, and that's what we're trying to rely on you on. But let me recognize Mr. Montana.
Well, Mayor, if I want to add to that, and I
Yes,
think kind of goes to a little bit to Councilman Carter's point, we only get one chance to do this, right? So if we accept a low bidder in this case, and that low bidder does not perform, we're going to have thousands upon thousands of people who are going to be disappointed on July 3rd. And so this is not a situation where, oh, we bought a piece of equipment and that piece of equipment didn't perform and we can just slow that project down or put the project to the side while we go back and make a claim against the bidder for not properly executing, performing on the contract, et cetera, and then going out and recovering, et cetera. This is a live event that we have one chance to do. So to that point, Mayor, this is not, you pay a guy $150 to mow your lawn and it looks like junk. Well, then next time you're going to bring somebody else to pay more money to mow your lawn. We don't have that opportunity here. We just have this one event. And so, looking at his website, bradyprosound.net, events and calendar, I see a couple things here. First of all, he already has us down for July 4th, so which is kind of odd that we haven't verified his bid yet, but he already has us down for July 4th. Hopefully he knows that it's on July 3rd, not July 4th. Beyond that, all the other events that I see on here, he looks like he's scheduled multiple times for an Alive in Roswell event, which is, Googling that, comes up to be like a third Thursday kind of thing that happens from April to October. And then he's got some other, like an event with the Marietta Rotary Club, a Paulding County Chamber of Commerce Golf Classic. Just from the face of these events, I don't see anything that has the scope of the thousands upon thousands of people that we're expecting to have on July 3rd. And so, again, I think that just goes back to my concern that, I think Tracy may have mentioned, I don't know how to convey to these references the scope of our event. And if I'm Tracy, and I'm not trying to tell you to do your job, but I would just simply say, listen, I'm expecting thousands upon thousands of people. And so do you have an event that has an equivalent number of people? And if you don't, then your reference really is not material to my consideration, because I need to see evidence that he's done this kind of job before. And, in his defense, he's going to argue, well, if you've never given me the chance to do it, then I can't do it. I understand that argument. But I don't think we can take the risk and go with just some extremely low bidder, because, again, we don't have another chance to do this.
It's just such an outlier, too. I mean, it grabs your attention. You immediately think, whoa, somebody's not really understanding what's going on. It's not always that, though, Ms. McPherson. It's not people just gouging. When you have two,
I'm not saying that.
When you have two different, we have three here. We're not just looking at this crazy low and then one other one. There's three, and I'm going to tell you, Pop Audio, that's a reputable person. We used to use them a lot here. So if he's in this range, I'm going to tell you it's going to be in that range somewhere to get the quality job that we're looking for. What you're talking about is tens of thousands of people.
Right.
This is a regional event. And I appreciate that what we're talking about here is getting it right and not having this be the talk of the region for a year about how crappy it was.
Clarify something, though. The numbers are the people that are on the field,
Sure.
not the thousands that are out in all the surrounding fields and down the highway. They don't hear anything that's going on that field except
But
they
they're
hear
all
the
involved in
helicopter.
the chatter, though.
But
It's who's,
I
and it
didn't
is a
say
big
we-
area.
You can hear it in my
I didn't say
neighborhood.
we should hire him
Hold
just
on, Mr.
because he's a
Carter.
low bidder.
No.
I'm saying we should at least go to those references and talk to the people and see what kind of event he put on and how well they did. That to me is a basic. If you're going to hire a company to cut trees down, you're going to do some research and find out if they drop a tree on a house or something like that. You're going to call the references and talk to them.
That feels very reasonable on the
Yeah, I
surface,
mean,
Mr.
it's
Carter.
reasonable to check them.
It does, but if you think about what Councilman Montahan just said, he did what none of us have done that I know of. He just Googled him looked at his website. This guy has already put us down for a concert that he is not doing.
Yep.
On the wrong date. If she just simply looked at that, that'd be reason enough for her to say, you know what, this is out. This one's out. It would be for me. So, are we going to have an objection to making that one a consent item as well?
Of course.
All right, so we'll take both of 3 and 4 into the regular session tonight. If there is something you've learned or gained from this conversation and you want to do something else between now and then, please make us aware, make the clerk aware, make Tom aware. If you want to delay it, if you want to make a change. If not, we'll take it just like it is. Okay?
One last question.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
This would not involve the lower bidder, but the other two, where when the things were put together, there was $700 difference. Here's my question. Pops would have been higher. If you'd put the stage and the sound and lighting, Pops would be $700 higher than RCS. Those are both companies that we've used a lot of. Where do we, and I'm not saying you have an exact line, with the city when we buy police cars from Ford, whether we buy Ford here or Ford somewhere else, we'll go a little higher because one's local. We'll go a little higher, not a lot higher. Does that play into any of this too, if it's a local business that we've done business with compared to, somebody out of town? Does that play into the decision-making at all? Because I know it does for some of the other things we buy, and the example is, the police cars and Ford.
We've had used Mr. Miles in the past. He did the sound. He did all of it 2 years ago. He didn't bid on it last year. I think he used to do a lot of stuff at the mill, and they moved from him to RCS. And so that plus just my experience with RCS, they're very professional. I just think that, like Councilman Montahan said, we have one opportunity to get this right, and we can play with it, or we can cross our fingers and play with it, or we can go with what we know. And I'm trying to go with what I know.
I would, and I appreciate that. And I would just say, really, in response to her question, this is how I see that, because I think she's exactly right. We've made the decision to buy vehicles from a local provider before when it cost a few $100s more. I think that your answer really is that we might take that into consideration. But I also think that we have a history with RCS, and because we have a history with both, it's not unreasonable that we would take the lower bid. But I think you should always consider local businesses when you can. And I think that was probably a consideration. But here it didn't outweigh the fact that we'd already had this relationship with RCS as well, and they were the lower bidder. That's how I think that would go across. Because I do think we will make exceptions when there are local businesses here. But we won't do that against where we already have experience, which is, in this case, is the RCS. So this took a lot more time than I thought. I got to do this one more. I got to do the July 3rd band. So would you present that real quick, and then we'll see if
Yes.
I don't know if we're going to have the same type of discussion on this because I was unaware, to be honest with you. So let's do it.
On the bands, each year we have 2 bands that do sort of preliminary entertainment for the fireworks. We have an opening band that generally will come on for an hour or so. That's a less prominent, more economical band, and then the main entertainment before the fireworks is a bigger band with a little more time on the stage. Basically what we do on this is we just shop around with agencies that have talent. And here again, RCS Promotions has the talent. They have hundreds of bands and individuals that do this. We've never had any problems with them. They've always had a good lineup of talent for us to look at and evaluate. This year we have chosen a Leah Bell Phaser to do the early performance, and the latter performance, the Platinum Band. These are both variety type bands. They do a mixture of pop, rock, some soul, a little bit of everything. I think something that will appeal to all the people there. And our recommendation is to go with those guys through RCS Productions in the amount of $9,500.
Okay, and that is $1,750 for the opening, and then $7,750 for the main.
For the larger act.
The main.
Yeah.
And I've never heard of either one of these. You said they do variety music.
Variety, country pop. Leah Bell Fraser is young. I believe she was an American Idol contestant. I believe she's from Nashville.
Okay.
But I looked at the videos, listened to some of their music. I think it's going to be well received by the people. We've had some good entertainment in the past. It's hard to beat what we've had, but we don't want to have the same people every year.
We haven't. I don't want to
entertainment wise.
I don't want to outshine this, but we got a really great lineup for Gold Rush this year. Okay, anybody have questions on this one, Mr. Carter?
As I understand it, there weren't any bids taken on this. You just decided on who you wanted.
Yeah, we reach out to various talent agencies, and they send us video of this one's performance, that one, some bio of them, and we do some research on that. We pick what music we think will appeal to the people, but we don't bid it. We don't bid this out. We kind of just handpick kind of who we want to use.
So you don't have any clue what the others would have charged. You just went with this one, and they want $9,500.
They have a lot of different talent within their talent pool. These two particular bands, we knew what their prices were. There were other people that had prices, what they would charge to come out, but we selected these two performances out of all that we could select.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
Okay, you answered one of my questions because I was going to ask, hey, tell us there's two bands, what kind of music? So you already answered that. A little bit of variety, a little bit of mix for both?
Yes, ma'am.
For both of them?
Mm-hmm.
And the only other thing I was going to ask is on the band, especially the intro band, are we looking at all at local and regional bands? And you added a question for me, only because something you said. Since we're using a talent search, RCS in a sense, to narrow it down and find us ones within a certain price range, they take a cut? I mean, they don't do that for free, right? Or where did they get their money from to go find the band? And do we ever look at anybody local or regional, West Georgia? That's all. That's all I got. Promise.
Unless there's a lot of people that say they garage bands and those types of things that are available. I'm sure in the West Georgia area, we go to the talent agency because these folks have credentials. They've met certain, they're good at what they do. They garner a crowd wherever they go. They're very popular. They have a following. Mm-hmm. So we rather go with a talent search or a talent agency so we can have that gold standard of entertainment within our price range as we're looking for talent.
For the intro band, too?
For both, for all of
Okay.
it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number 9? It should not be. Yes, sir. All right. I'll just remind you to let me do it. All right. F6. 2023 Healthy Cities Campaign NFC Grant Assistance Program. Is that you, Tracy?
Yes.
All right.
So this is the second time that we brought this before you guys. In 2021, we received a $25,000 grant towards this program. The National Fitness Campaign has merged with Georgia Recreation and Park Association for a health initiative. And the product that they have that we're trying to secure is a fitness court. It's a no Nautilus machines. Everything is against your weight. You sit-ups, chin-ups, pull-ups, those types of things. We originally had selected Prospectors Park for the location because it would fit right in there, but that was in 2021. And then in 2022, we weren't able to get the complimentary funds because we had such a lean budget year. So we're bringing this back again. This year, the grant opportunity is $30,000. The fitness court, they're not a whole lot in Georgia. They're becoming more popular, but they're sprinkled around, the metro Atlanta area. And we'd like to get in on some of that. It helps to help us with our fitness campaign and our wellness and fitness initiatives that we want to try to do. There's a total estimated cost for the whole project at around $175,000. So you take the $30,000 from there. I think we'll get the grant because we've shifted our location to Goldust Park, and that's a 30-point park. It's a 30-point location. You can only get 30 points. There's such a high level of pedestrian traffic there in the walking trail system, and everybody, they feel safe there. This is just a great place to put it. It's easily monitored. So Chris Montesinos and I are in the process of putting together marketing materials to go to companies like Tanner. We have a meeting scheduled with Tanner, the Tanner Foundation, on the 26th of April, I believe, to try to help bridge the gap between the $30,000 and what the ultimate cost would be. So we're just asking, this doesn't commit the city, this just gets us permission to apply for the grant. We can, get the grant and not do the project, or we can get the grant and try to find a way to do the project. So we're just asking for authorization for us to apply for the grant.
All right, any questions? All right, Ms. McPherson.
Just so people can visualize this, on the one attachment on page 7 and 8, because I hadn't seen it in a couple years, it at least gives an example so people could see what it looks like. Page 6, 7, 8, I scrolled down to 8 is a really good picture because they're not all exactly alike, but at least you'd have an idea of what it looked like. When we looked at it a couple years ago, he was talking about downtown. Somewhere downtown, but that makes sense to have. Doesn't bring people downtown, but it makes sense. I see your arguments for having it over there.
Yeah, there's already that population there. That's a very active park. This is if we can get the community all in on this to help support it and help build it.
Thank you.
We can have a company that can provide just the concrete pad.
Who's doing that?
That's $20,000 of the expense. There are different art packages that you can get that, you can get the basic package, the National Fitness Court design, it's $10,000, or you can go all the way up to a featured artist, which is a lot more money. Our plan is to just go with we want to go with the best we can get, but we understand that the city may have to, put some funds towards this. So we have opportunities for local businesses to have their name on a tile that is very well, getting their name out. Every time somebody visits that particular location, they're going to see it. You drive by it, you're going to see it. I just think it would just be a great asset to our community and to the park system, and to help us get folks out and, taking better care of themselves.
Okay, anybody else? All right, is there any objection to making this consent number 10? This is simply a resolution of support.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Tracy. All right, Chief, let's do G1, watch guard body cameras. It's going to be hard?
I was talking to her about something else, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Good afternoon again. So what we're asking here is we use WatchGuard Video, who was bought out by Motorola. Before WatchGuard would repair our camera systems when we had issues with them or replace them, Motorola does not do that anymore. They don't service the broken units, so we're having to replace the units completely. We were in a position where we did not have enough cameras for the officers we recently hired because of the broken units. So we based that and did an emergency purchase. Spoke to Tom and the mayor about that to make sure we're okay with doing that, but we've already put those on order, so we're asking that you approve this purchase. And the
All right.
money will be coming out of the technology fund, which is not budget.
Yes, sir. All right, any questions from anybody? All right, is there any objection to making this consent number 11? All right, Hal, you up next, or who's doing it? Charlie. Auction of non-running retired police department vehicles on govdeals.com. And no disrespect, Charlie, but I got to use the restroom. So,
Charlie always does a great presentation. It's true.
The second one, maybe not.
But his report is always your report is always thorough.
Go
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, you're good to go.
All right.
Sorry. Yeah, carry on.
Okay, first thing I have is I have 5 retired police cars. They vary in years from 2004 to 1989 to 2011. All of them are in excess of 150 to 200,000 miles. They've been parked for over a year. They've been decommissioned, and we'd like permission to get these put on gov deals and sold. We need the parking space, and we just we're just not getting any use out of these vehicles.
Anyone on council have any questions?
I just got one. I'm more curious than anything as to why we hung on to these things for a year if they weren't usable.
We had to wait because of the COVID items to have the police equipment taken off of most of them because our Metro Communications has lost so many of their long-term employees in the last 2 years.
So you're waiting for them to get stripped, that's
to
what
get
you're waiting on?
stripped down, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any objection to putting this on the consent agenda?
It's C12.
I'm glad somebody's got the numbers. That's 12?
That's 12.
Okay. All right, Charlie, number 2, the pit car kits.
Yes, this is something I've been working on with Chief and Captain for a while. We've looked nationwide. They'd like to we have 2 Crown Vics that have been retired that are still in decent condition and would be good candidates for this. There's not many companies around to build these. I looked at the cost of building them in-house. I couldn't even buy the steel for what these would cost. And the time to do them would be 50 or 60 hours per each one on top of that. Also went down and looked at the ones that Carroll County built, and they're just not up to what I think would make them safe. The thing about this company is they're the only one that, of course, these are huge steel bumpers. I hope you got to see the pictures in there that go around the entire car. And these are the only ones that have almost a 1-inch thick rubber pad all the way around them, which not only protects what they're hitting somewhat, but more importantly, protects our patrol cars.
Charlie,
quick.
is your microphone on?
I think he lost it.
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
Ms.
All
McPherson.
right.
I was going to ask that
Would
question.
you mind explaining, just in case anybody missed it or people watching, what the pit car is, so
Yes.
they'll know what we're talking about?
I'm going to let Chief come up here and do that. I told him I
You
I tried
build
to
them,
sell
he-
this, but I
he
let
puts
him
them into
sell the
operation.
idea. Yeah.
So the pit car is a vehicle that is equipped to where it doesn't damage either vehicle while the officers are learning how to pit. So pitting a vehicle is striking it in the back quarter panel, spinning it out kind of deal. We have had officers trained to do that before. We sent them to a school to do it. We have pit instructors in-house now to where we can do this in-house and we can use our own equipment and we don't have to send anybody off to do it, and we can get more officers qualified to do it. So we're asking to build these cars so we can do it here.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number 12?
That's 13.
Did y'all go through a bunch of stuff?
No, we went through the last one.
You'd be surprised.
You left on the last one.
All right. So we got C12 and C13, right?
Yeah, H1, H2, yeah.
H2 is consent number 13. There you go, Dave. You could have got me right there. I had left the room. All right. I, utilities. Thank you, Charlie. All right. Number 1, Sunset Tank demolition. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This first request is to engage with Isolar Demolition for the removal of the Sunset Tank located near 6th Street. The tank was taken out of service 5 years ago in spring of 2018 as it no longer served a purpose with the water system. We've been in conversation with Carbon Sloop to engage with contractors, actually steel tank erectors, who can dismantle and remove that tank for us. And the consensus that Carbon Sloop received from all the vendors that they reached out to who build these tanks is to reach out to Isolar Demolition, as they're the only ones that or anywhere near the southeast that does this type of work. It's a very specific work to remove these steel water tanks. But everyone they reached out to referred Matt Smith to Eisler Demolition. So we had conversations with Eisler Demolition on removal of the tank and received a quote of $29,200. Through Carter and Sloop and staff's conversations with the contractor, our recommendation is to proceed with Eisler Demolition for the removal of the sunset tank.
All right, council, do you have any questions? All right, is there any objection to making this consent number 14?
No.
All right, John, let's do I-2, West Plant Pump Station Screen Addition.
All right, thank you. This request is for the installation of the West Plant Influent Pump Station screen. The city had previously purchased a screen from Huber Technologies to install at the West Plant Influent Pump Station, which is the location of where the old West Plant was. There's a large modification that needs to be done at that station as well as install the screen. So this is a project through Simonton Engineering. Paul Simonton has been working on this project for some time now. He designed it and put out for bids and received 2 bids, one from Grizzard and Associates at $1.5 million and the other from IHC Construction at a cost of $2.564 million. We've been in conversation with both contractors, and through Paul Simonton and ourselves, our recommendation is to move forward with the low bid from Grizzard and Associates for $1.5 million for the installation of the West Plant screening structure.
All right, questions? Mr. Carter?
I'm just wondering, that's $1 million difference. What in the world accounts for $1 million difference?
Well, this is actually our second time bidding this project. As I recall, we bid it initially, and there was a problem with, I believe, with the bid package, and when it was published, that the numbers were wrong, so we really didn't receive any bids. A couple contractors reached back out to Paul Simonton and gave some feedback on the design and the project. So we had a pre-bid meeting with contractors. I believe we had 4 contractors show up for that pre-bid meeting to the site, and we talked through the project with the contractors. After that, we put it out for bid again, and we actually did receive one bid initially. I apologize. And that bid actually went up when we expected them to go down significantly, as did with Grizzly Associates. Their bid came in much lower after the pre-bid meeting that we had on site. And it was a lot of it's relative to due to the concrete work that needs to be done, but Grizzly Associates is also local. IHC is not local. So if in their bid tab that's attached in the project, I know they have more for mobilization. They have significantly more for some of the construction. The construction of the screen structure itself was much higher than it was from Grizzard and Associates. But Paul Simonton and staff both looked at both bids pretty significantly, and we're comfortable with the bid of $1.5 million. We actually recently engaged with them to install the raised platform and the modifications at Cowan's Lake Raw Water Pump Station. That's the contractor that's doing that work for us right now as we speak. So we're starting to work with them more, and I think the fact that they're local helps them out a fair bit as well.
So are you saying that the proximity accounts for more than $1 million?
No, not at all. I think the manner in which and Tom can probably answer this. Tom has a similar association with Grizzly Associates, but looking at the bid tabulations that's attached, we're confident in where the bids are. IHC is actually the contractor that did some work for us previously, and we are comfortable where we are working. Having worked with both companies, we're comfortable working with Grizzly Associates. But I know Tom wanted to speak to that.
I mean, I like that, and actually, I'm not giving a lot of pushback. Clearly, the bid that you're going for, that you're recommending, is the one that's $1 million lower. It's just that the difference is so significant. You ask yourself, what is being missed in the scope, or what it is, Tom?
So there's a bunch of history to this. So Grizzard is Tim, who was the county or the city manager in Carrollton before he retired, and what he is doing now is performing public works projects without a staff. So he bids each job and then goes out and cobbles together contractors and acts as the GC. So he's got no overhead. If you approve this, it'll be the fourth time you've approved the job with him. So he did the culvert work at the Flowers Bakery driveway. We awarded him, like John said, the Cowan Road panel upgrade. He's doing the Mirror Lake Dam renovation. That's currently going on also. So this would be number 4. When Paul put this together and put it out to bid the first time, those plans go into, they're sent to a service so that contractors can pay that service to produce for them a copy of the bid document because the plans are so large. And when we did that the first time, the room that houses those plans asked us what the budget was, and they misentered it by a 0. So instead of it saying whatever it was going to say, it was 1/10 of that. And so nobody bid except one person, and IHC, and they bid like $500,000 more than Paul had estimated the cost to be. And so we rebid it. And we specifically reached out to Tim and said, hey, we want you to bid on this. And he said, well, I looked at it the first time, but your budget was just ridiculous, and so I didn't bid on it, right? So I think we're still in a place where we're trying to cultivate a working relationship with Grizzard. But the project that he's completed, we were happy with. The 2 that he's working on now are going well, and we have every confidence that he can do this. We also are in a position where if we develop this relationship, because of his background, we think that he can actually help us lower the design cost, because he worked for Douglas Water, and then he went to Carrollton to fix their water and sewer system. He's a class 1 sewer operator. He's a class 1 water operator. He's a certified electrician. I mean, he's got a lot of skills, and he can help us do things cheaper beyond what the plan shows. So I think long term, this, he could wind up bidding on all of our lift station work. So the lift station at First Baptist for Chapman, the rebuild of Shoreline Lift Station, the rebuild of the lift station at the Falls off of Tyson Road. I mean, we've got multiple lift stations coming up, and we think, that cultivating a working relationship with him could literally save us millions of dollars.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. Mr. Carter?
So you're saying that he actually bids and then he goes and tries to find people to do the work? Is that what you're saying? So if you don't find the people to do the work, we're in a pickle, or he is.
He's in a pickle, yeah, but I mean, he's got however many years experience doing this work, basically in the same kind of relationship where when he was at Carrollton, he was running these projects. So he's got the network already established. He's just taking advantage of it now.
There's something to that too. I mean, I think that what Mr. Carter is saying is obvious on its face. That's a little bit. I mean, that's a red flag, but it's going to be on you all. I mean, it's going to be on him ultimately whether he gets the future work, but it's going to be on you all recommending something like that and then it not performing. So, and it is the low bid. There's a lot of reasons why it's still attractive, but we also have the history with Tim. And so I don't know. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. I think
based on the history with him, since we've got other projects going and some are completed, I would not be comfortable, I'd be comfortable with that since we've seen what he can do.
Sure.
So
No, I
he's
get it.
performing, so that's well.
Ms. McPherson.
Yeah, I was just going to say, before Tim, he's introduced as the former city manager, but before that as deputy city manager, he was their engineer on this stuff. He has extensive background in water and sewer. And so we've already even before we worked with him and had a track record with him, but I have a friend on the council down there who said, I can't tell you how much money Tim saved us over the years because of his engineering skills and everything in this area. Yeah.
All right, anybody else? All right, is any objection to making this consent number 15?
No.
Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right, Jennifer. J1, approve the property and liability insurance renewal with Georgia Interlocal Risk Management Agency, GERMA.
Yes, it is time for renewal. That will begin May 1st of this year and go through May 1st of next year. The quote that we were given was about 8.5% higher than last year. However, in talking with our representative, every member experienced around a 10% rate increase. So we were below the average increase. And according to her, the several key factors driving the need for the increase for all members was the unfavorable claim trends in auto liability and property, the high inflation levels which impact the replacement and repair costs of vehicles and buildings. This is a budgeted item, and again, we experienced only an 8.5% increase. We did factor that in when we put the number in the budget.
Were we anticipating 8.5, or what did we anticipate in the budget?
I believe it was around 10%.
That makes sense to me. Okay. All right. Any questions on this?
Just
Mr.
for clarification, so you're saying we have enough budget to cover this,
Yes, sir.
excess?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Any objection to making this consent number 16? All right. J2, approve the excess cyber liability insurance renewal.
Okay.
Go ahead.
In addition to our regular policy, which covers $250,000 per incident with a $10,000 deductible, we also have this excess cyber liability coverage, and it was quoted at the same price as it was last year at $15,067. So this would be asking y'all's approval to renew with this policy as well.
All right. Any questions on this one? There's no increase here. All right. Any objection to making it consent number 17? All right. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right. These look like they can be kind of quick. All right. K1, easement request from Georgia Power. Tom?
All right, I have 3 items on here again this month from last month. The first one was the request from Georgia Power to purchase from us easements underneath their power lines, I think in 7 different locations, in order for them to clear cut those areas, and my recommendation is that we deny that request.
All right. Are there any questions on this?
Just one,
Mr.
this
Carter?
came up last month. How come we didn't satisfy it last month? Why did we put it off?
Y'all wanted to think about it, because
Oh.
I don't think we talked about it.
I didn't want to think about it. I
don't
didn't
think
know why we put it off.
remember even. I remember some discussion, but what did we do?
We pushed
Okay,
it.
Ms. McCoy?
I remember it was something about the easements being too much or too small, and we were supposed to go back to Georgia Power for and ask them for what we wanted.
I think you're talking about the path up to Publix.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
this
different.
is
That's
a different one.
Okay, never mind.
Okay, so the motion is to deny. Is there any objection to making this consent number 18?
None.
I don't remember why we didn't take it up last month. All right, K2, agreement with Norfolk Southern for engineering services for the Highway 78 downtown pedestrian crossing. Tom?
Okay, we have a quote from our friends at the railroad for 20 grand to review the plans that have been developed for doing this pedestrian crossing. As I understand it, it is a standard fee that they charge to do this. And we tabled this from last time, so recommendation is still to approve.
To approve this. Okay. Are there any questions on this one? All right, Ms. McPherson.
Yeah, it's my fault it was tabled last time because I wanted to make sure it wasn't in conflict with the whole LCI, the whole redesign of the downtown, because I had not personally been involved in the crossing of the tracks other than reviewing the plan of putting up fencing. This does not involve that yet, and so I talked to our special projects employee, Chris Montesinos, and he did say that this would actually help us expedite the crossing should the grant be approved. So it could help us in the long run as far as moving ahead and making that safe crossing, so.
All right, anybody else? All right, is there, Mr. Carter?
I'm curious exactly what kind of design would it be? I didn't understand. We have a crossing out there. We could come up.
We're gonna put flashers up and have a marked pedestrian crossing, but that doesn't do us any good if it just takes you to the bank. You know, there's a pretty steep bank from 78 up to the railroad.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna build a switchback walkway up that bank to get it, because right now it's just like a really steep stairway.
We're going to do
and it's not used. I mean, it's not very pedestrian friendly, you might say. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish is to make people actually have something that they're willing to use so that they can park on the north side of the track and still come to the Cinema Tavern, Chat and Chew side of downtown.
And some flashers to indicate a train's coming, stuff like that.
No, that's to get people
just
across
for
the
pedestrian
street.
safety.
To get across the street
To get from the sidewalk across 78.
Yeah, so it gets you over to that parallel parking. Say you're at Chat and Chew or one of the shops, that gets you over to that parallel parking, gets you to where that ramp goes up. And the long-term plan is to have the switchback, but also have iron fencing that goes along the railroad so it will direct you to the correct crossings. And the railroad company will like that because say we're having downtown events, people can't just willy-nilly cross anywhere, which makes them really nervous. It at least puts them at the designated crossings. And so that is to get that fencing. That's kind of the long-term thing.
All right. Any objection to making this consent number 19? All right, let's do K3. Authorize staff request for traffic signal and flashers from GDOT.
Right. Well, I would like permission to apply to GDOT for their part of this whole project. So that's all there is to this. Still
Okay.
recommending approval.
Any questions?
I missed something. That was the flashers for where?
For downtown.
Pedestrian ones.
We've got to apply.
The pedestrian one. Yes, got it. Okay, thank
We've
you.
got to apply to GDOT.
Any objection to making this consent number 20?
Absolutely not. We
All
need
right,
that one.
Let me go back and do some housekeeping. Let's go back to D2, special event request for Prospectors Park. I'm going to update the motion as it's been given to me from the city attorney. The motion in this would be, I move to approve the use of Prospector Park by Hickstown Brewery on Saturday, April the 29th from 1 to 7 p.m. for their 4th anniversary celebration, subject to their payment of all fees in compliance with city policy. Road must be closed, one officer for road closure at $45 per hour. That is the updated motion, and is there any objection to that item remaining as consent number 6? Okay. Thank you, Alyssa. And look, give Jerry our best. What? How much?
45.
Is there any change to what I said?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, and give Jerry our best. I hope he's recovering well, and you can be home with him tonight. All right, I'm going to go back through and review the consent agenda as I have it. If you see something different, wait till I finish, and then we'll go back and take it up. And at that time, if there are also any objections, I'll take them after I've gone through it. After that, I'll do public comments. All right, consent item number 1, Business Associate Agreement, Strongside Solutions, LLC. Consent number 2, approval of intergovernmental agreement with Douglas County for local option sales tax. Consent number 3, approval of intergovernmental agreement with Douglas County for service delivery. Consent number 4, filling a vacancy for the library board, Cheryl Bell, reappointment. Consent number 5, alcohol agreement with Uncorked Domain for 2023 concert series at the Mill Amphitheater. Consent number 6, special event request for Prospectors Park. Consent number 7, replacement of Microsoft Surfaces with Apple iPads. Consent number 8, July 3rd fireworks display contractor recommendation. Consent number 9, July 3rd band. Consent number 10, 2023 Healthy Cities Campaign and National Fitness Campaign Grant Assistance Program. Consent number 11, WatchGuard body cameras. Consent number 12, auction of non-running/retired police department vehicles on govdeals.com. Consent number 13, pit car kits for training. Consent number 14, Sunset Tank demolition. Consent number 15, West Plant Pump Station Screen Edition Influent. Consent number 16, approve the property and liability insurance renewal with GERMA, Georgia Interlocal Risk Management Agency. Consent number 17, approve the excess cyber liability insurance renewal. Consent number 18, easement request from Georgia Power. Consent number 19, agreement with Norfolk Southern for engineering services for the Highway 78 downtown pedestrian crossing. And consent number 20, authorize staff request for traffic signal/flashers from GDOT. Anybody hear anything different?
Yeah.
Mr. Carter.
It's consent number 1. Actually, that says only Strong Side Solutions, but there's actually 3 agreements: Strong Side, Angel Access, and Angel RX.
Well, that's in the motion.
Right.
Sometimes they don't put the whole thing. It's sort of paraphrased on the agenda. So, but it still references the correct item in motion. So I think we'll be fine there. Anything else? All right. So, Madam Clerk prepared the consent agenda that way. Let's go to public comments. Angelia O'Neill. Ma'am, you have waited for 3 hours almost. Well, welcome. Good. Come on up here. Give us your name and address for the record, and we will give you 3 minutes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, and Council, and Mr. Barber as well. My name is Angela O'Neill. I am a resident of Villa Rica, have been a resident now for 20 years, and I'm also a business owner here. I've been here in Villa Rica for 3 years, but my agency actually has been around for about 20 years as well. I'm here to talk with you all today just to get this on public record, because I am very excited about the things that has been happening to and for my organization since I've been in Villa Rica. I would like to give just a little bit of history about what I do. I'm the founder of a nonprofit organization called Menswear Incorporated. MENS is an acronym for Making Employment the Next Step. We've been around since 2004. Our mission is to empower males and strengthen families. Since 2004, we have provided over 1,500 youth and adults with workforce readiness and small business training. And since we've been here in Villa Rica, which we moved in our location actually during the pandemic in 2020, it's just been amazing to me the things that have been happening positively for this community. In 2000, we received funding from Microsoft to help us expand our operations, which put us in a position to expand our reach operationally. In 2002, we received funding from Grow with Google, about $35,000 that split over almost 2 years, but we provide digital skills training to upskill and reskill local job seekers that are looking to advance their career, start a new career. We partners with the library because our location is so small. We're right here on the corner of Bankhead and South Dogwood, so we don't have the capacity to provide training. We partnered with the library earlier this year, and it has been a wonderful thing. I heard Ms. McPherson talk about not being all that tech savvy, but we actually have a lot of 55 plus that come to our workshop, so it has been wonderful. But the main thing I'm excited about, earlier this year, Spectrum reached out to us Spectrum, you all know Charter. They're providing us with a $50,000 grant because we are located in one of their service areas to expand our workforce development agents training. So I would like to somehow partner with the city to help us take advantage of this opportunity, which also includes what they call a Spectrum Community Centers initiative, which they will build for us and provide us with 20 computers, again, to expand our outreach. So thank you all so much. All right.
Thank you. And I'll be happy to meet with you on that because I'm not familiar with it at all, but
Okay.
maybe we'll see if there's a way to do something like that. I don't know. I'm not familiar. But
All
thank
right,
you for coming
wonderful.
today.
Thank you.
All right. So that's the whole of the list. Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in public comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
can just make a brief announcement, I thank you for reminding me of this, is that on the Mirror Lake pathway issue that has been close to your hearts for a while, we've had a breakthrough.
Okay.
Greystone Power has told us that they can make do with a 6-foot easement, which the CubeSmart people have said that they could live with. So we've got the proposed easement off in the mail to them. Hopefully they'll sign it and we can progress with that.
Wonderful. That is really good news, and I didn't know that before today. That's very interesting. So I think everybody here will be happy to know that that has happened. Okay, still, public comments. Is there anybody here? I don't really see anybody. Dave? Nothing? All right. You took your name off the list? Oh, you did have your name on the list. I was just picking on you because it's easy. All right. That being the case, Tom, you have anything? Dave? All right. No, so tonight what I had meant to start out this meeting with today was to say that I needed to go through it really as quickly as possible, and not only did I not say that, that did not happen. Rica High School is being recognized tonight for their STEM certification, and I want to attend that. It's at 6:30. So depending on how this evening goes, I may be able to cut out of here a little bit early and go do that. But that being said, we're going to have a presentation tonight from Three Rivers. I've already advised Ron that needs to have some brevity to it, but we're going to have them come in tonight and make a presentation, sort of a precursor to what they'll be doing Thursday at our input meeting, right? Comp plan. So, but that's what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do it unless something changes between now and then, and Ron will let us know. Okay, is there anything else? Do you have anything to add, Jennifer? I'm looking at Joel like he hasn't. Joel just wants to know when we're done. David, Tom,